Good morning. The Committee on Economic Development and Agriculture is hereby called to order Monday, May 10th. Good morning to all. As we commence this hearing this morning, I apologize for the change of venue. However, most of the hearing is being conducted virtually, so we should not have a problem. At this time, what I wanted to do was just ask Madam Clerk for a quorum call.
Senator Dwayne DeGraff. Senator DeGraff, absent. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. Senator Heiliger, absent. Senator Novell E. Francis Jr. Senator Francis, present. Senator Donna Fred Gregory.
Here.
Senator Fred Gregory, present. Senator Javon James Sr. Senator James, present.
Yeah.
Senator Milton E. Potter. Senator Potter, absent. Yes.
Here, present.
Senator Potter, present. Senator Kenneth L. Gittens.
Here.
Senator Gittens, present. We have 5 present, 3 absent.
So we have established a quorum, and before we begin today's agenda, or before I ask you to read today's agenda into the record, I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge our law enforcement community. This week has been proclaimed nationally as National Police Week, as President Biden has signed a proclamation that May 15th will also be observed as Peace Officers Day. That's the day that we will honor all those who have fallen in the line of duty. And May 9th through the 15th is hereby designated National Police Week. Policing is a challenging and oftentimes thankless job. So let us recognize the efforts of our men and women in blue this week. I'd also like to acknowledge the class of 2021 and state that I stand by you and support you on your efforts to push for an in-person graduation. Hopefully, we can resolve this issue sometime this week, as the administration will be reaching out to the various classes and class officers. Today, we will hear from the Virgin Islands Port Authority. This agency serves as a critical role in our economy and literally is a gatekeeper when it comes to tourism. Just about every person and product that comes into our territory passes through our Port Authority facility. There are some major projects in the works and coming online in the near future, and today we will hear more from the port's operations and the status of these projects. I anticipate that it will be an informative discussion and there will be much more to follow up on. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to read today's agenda into the record, please.
Committee on Economic Development and Agriculture, hearing agenda. Chairperson Kenneth L. Gittens. The Committee on Economic Development and Agriculture will meet to receive testimony from the Virgin Islands Port Authority and its governing board to provide updates on the overall status of the authority, capital improvement projects, and revenue-generating projects that are in place or on the horizon for the authority. 10 a.m., invited testifiers are as follows: Carlton Dow, Director, VI Port Authority; Leona Smith, Chairperson, VI Port Authority Governing Board.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That seat, you look good in that seat, I must say. That's Ms. Fiona Stokes, our clerk for the day, and I also want to acknowledge and welcome to our team Ms. Risa Bailey. Today is her first day. I think they call it, my commissioner could remind me, you call it what, trial by fire? So, a baptism by fire, okay. So today's her first day, and she'll be looking on, and I'm sure she will grasp everything quickly. So at this time, I want to ask our invited testifiers to just do a systems check so that, I'm sorry.
Correspondent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any correspondence to be read into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
From who? And you may begin.
Letter dated May 5th, 2021, addressed to Kenneth Gittins, Senator, Legislature of the Virgin Islands, 3022 Golden Rock, Christiansted, Virgin Islands, 00820. Dear Honorable Senator Gittins, this correspondence is in regard to the upcoming hearing to discuss the Virgin Islands Port Authority projects. I will not be able to attend the hearing on May 8, 2021, due to another commitment. However, Executive Director Dow and staff will be available to attend and speak on the projects. Thank you in advance for your understanding and your cooperation. Warm regards, Leona Smith, Chairwoman, VI Port Authority Governing Board.
There's not a Committee on Economic Development hearing on May 8th, so I'm not sure what she was referring to, but that might have been an error. Thank you for that correspondence. Any other?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll try to do a systems check at this time, beginning with Executive Director Dow. If everyone can turn on their cameras at this time, and you can introduce yourselves, name, title, etc.
Good morning, Carlton Dow, Director, Virgin Islands Port Authority.
Morning, sir. You have a deputy or assistant there?
Good morning, Anita, Deputy Executive Director, Virgin Islands Port Authority.
Thank you. Next.
Morning, Chief Flynn, Port Authority, Police Chief, of course, St. Croix District.
Good morning, Edred Wilkes, Port Authority Police Chief, St. Thomas, St. John District.
Good morning, Matthew Berry, Marine Manager, St. Thomas, St. John.
Your name again, sir?
Matthew.
I'm hearing Matthew, but I didn't hear the last name.
And Berry. Can you hear me?
Barry?
Yes, sir, Berry.
Okay, thank you. I think someone else just signed on. Ma'am, can you identify yourself and title, please?
Hi, good day. This is Anna Penn, Chief Financial Officer.
Ms. Penn, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 6 of you up. I want to ask everyone, as the director is making his presentation, to please mute your devices and unmute when you're getting ready to respond. Director, are you ready for your presentation? You may proceed.
Yes. Good morning, Honorable Senator Kenneth L. Gittins, Chairperson of the Committee of Economic Development and Agriculture. all distinguished senators of the 34th Legislature of the U.S. Virgin Islands, the legislative staff, and the listening and viewing audience. I am Carlton Dow, the Executive Director of the Virgin Islands Port Authority. I thank you for the invitation to testify before your committee to provide an update regarding the overall status of the Port Authority, capital improvement and revenue generating projects, and incentives and programs in place to stimulate the growth of our territory's travel and tourism industry. For the benefit of the listening public, please allow me to summarize our mandate. VIPA is a semi-autonomous agency, self-sustaining, that manages 2 airports and 14 public seaports in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Our objective is to facilitate travel, commerce, and aid in fostering tourism and economic growth by providing modern and safe port facilities. Our ports are critical to the economic activity of our territory, particularly due to our geographic location. Ports support social and economic activities, trade, our largest gross domestic product, tourism, operations, construction, and maintenance jobs at the ports provide hundreds of employment opportunities for residents. They also simultaneously stimulate our economy by providing revenue for the government of the Virgin Islands in grocery taxes and income taxes alike. The primary source of the authority's operating revenues is customer and rental charges to users of our airport and marine facilities. Other funding sources include federal grants, federally approved passenger facility charges added to airline tickets, and appropriations for a specific project via the U.S. Virgin Islands legislature. VIPA does not receive an annual allotment from the government of the Virgin Islands. While VIPA is a self-sustaining agency, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has caused significant revenue shortfalls due to reduced travel and a significant decrease in marine traffic to the territory. VIPA's Board of Governors approved a $150.4 million budget for the authority for fiscal year 2021, which began October 1, 2020, and ends September 31st, 2021. The budget is a 2% decrease over the fiscal year, excluding, which includes $1 million operating expenses, 4 for debt, 9 million.
Executive Director, if you could give me 5 minutes. We just had a little technical difficulty. It may be resolved in less than 5 minutes, but we'll take a recess for 5 minutes. My apologies. The Committee on Economic Development and Agriculture for Monday, May 10, 2021 is back on record. Executive Director and others, I apologize for the technical difficulty. We're having some technology challenges this morning with the internet, etc. However, Director, you may proceed from VIPA's Board of Governors approving a $150.4 million budget.
The budget includes personnel costs of $15.8 million, fringe benefits totaling $9.7 million, and utility costs of $5.7 million. Our finance team has already begun the budget preparation process for fiscal year 2022 and will carefully factor in a significant decrease in marine revenue, as well as uncertainty of any increase in the upcoming fiscal year as to weather this pandemic. Air arrivals were at a record low when the territory closed to leisure travel to decrease the spread of the coronavirus. Leisure travelers were prohibited from March 25th through June 1st, 2020, and again from August 13th through September 18, 2020. During this shutdown, our airports received around 100 or fewer travelers per day. Air traveler arrivals to the territory only began to increase in late October of 2020. The territory has since seen a significant surge in air visitor arrival. However, the effects of the pandemic are still evident when we review our visitor arrival statistics, which are still not as robust as our pre-pandemic numbers. When compared to February in fiscal year 2020, VIPA's revenues have decreased by 45% during the same period in 2021. The increase in visitor arrivals can be attributed to the current low cost of airline tickets due to the pandemic, as well as the increase in airlift to the territory. The U.S. Virgin Islands welcomed the inaugural Frontier Airlines flight to St. Thomas on February 19, 2021. Frontier will provide service between Orlando and St. Thomas twice a week and twice weekly service from Miami to St. Thomas, which started March 7th in December. VIPA also welcomed Delta Airlines' new service connecting Minneapolis to St. Thomas and the seasonal return of Sun Country Airlines' Minneapolis service to St. Thomas. JetBlue has also announced that it plans to begin flights from Newark to St. Thomas in July 2021. While there has been no new service to St. Croix, there has been a significant increase in air passenger arrival and tourist traffic on St. Croix. This is evident as the hotels and Airbnb owners on St. Croix are reporting that they are limited or has no vacancies. Cruise ships have not visited the U.S. Virgin Islands since March 2020 due to the restrictions on cruise travel imposed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The closure of the British Virgin Islands borders from March 2020 through April of this year has also substantially decreased our revenues collections. While there is a general consensus that cruise will be allowed to operate in the U.S. in July 2021, we have no definite date when cruise will resume in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We are hopeful that the territory marine industry will rebound as vaccination programs around the world progresses. The Federal Aviation Administration awarded the U.S. Virgin Islands $38 million to maintain the territory's airports as part of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act Federal Stimulus Bill, CARES. The federal funds are available to keep airports in reliable, safe operation to serve the aviation industry, the traveling public, and support the economy. The funds can also be used to keep airport and aviation workers employed and keep airport credit ratings stable. The grant cannot be used for any purpose not approved by the FAA and cannot be used to fund VIPA's Marine Division operations. Of the allotment, $21.5 million is earmarked for Cyril E. King Airport and $19.6 million for Henry E. Rolson Airport. VIPA employs 365 residents in this territory and has not implemented any furloughs or layoffs since the pandemic. We have only filled vacancies necessary for us to fulfill our mandate. Some of the positions applicable to aviation operations have been funded using monies from the CARES Act. The FAA awarded Viper a grant in amount of $8.8 million via the Airport Improvement Program grant in September of 2020. The grant provides $4.7 million to rehabilitate 5,305 square yards of failing pavement at Cyril E. King Airport and design phase 2 of this project to reconstruct 11,000 square yards of faulty apron pavement. The grant also provides $14.1 million for the Henry E. Wilson Airport runway 1028 shoulder and electrical valve construction project scheduled to start June of 2021. Viper will reconstruct and repair the lighting system at Hira runway and taxi A, build a new airfield electrical valve, and purchase an emergency generator and a home run electrical system. All runway and edge lights of taxiway A, B, E, and F and G will be replaced. Viper is normally required to provide a 10% match for each project per AIP grant guidelines. However, the 10% match is covered by the FAA according to the terms of the CARES Act. Therefore, the projects under this grant are 100% funded by the U.S. Department of Transportation. The U.S. Department of Transportation awarded Viper a $21.8 million for the reconstruction and modernization of cargo handling and storage infrastructure at the Crown Bay Cargo Terminal in St. Thomas. The project includes bulkhead rehabilitation, concrete apron restoration, reconstruction of 3 cargo storage areas, and security improvements, including lighting, fencing, and fire protection. This grant amount is unprecedented and will facilitate more efficient cargo movement both into and out of St. Thomas. The expansion will also be essential to improving safety conditions at this often congested port that serves the prime cargo facility in St. Thomas. The Virgin Islands Port Authority Police Division received a $153,000 grant in 2020 from the Law Enforcement Protection Planning Commission to purchase safety and protective equipment for our law enforcement officers and frontline staff. I thank LEPC Director Ray Martinez for his assistance with this grant and provided cameras and other security equipment to ensure that Viper remained in full compliance with the local and federal regulations. Via the LEPC, we also is in the process of receiving KN95 mask, surgical mask, face shield, gloves, and hand sanitizers, and disposable coveralls. Viper has applied to the Federal Aviation Administration to extend the deadline to collect passenger facility charge at Cyril E. King Airport. While other Caribbean destinations institute a departure or air tax to fund their airport projects, the U.S. Virgin Islands is forbidden to charge a departure tax as a territory of the United States. Instead, Viper uses the PFCs as a revenue source for its airport improvement. The amount that we can collect is regulated by the U.S. Congress and can only be increased through that body. Viper currently collects $4.50 in passenger facility charges per eligible in-plane passenger. While the fee will only be collected from tickets for passengers departing from Cyril E. King Airport, the funds collected will be used to support terminal upgrade projects at both Sika and Hira. The projects will include upgrades to baggage handling systems and new ticketing counters in the departure and hold room areas. Viper's engineering department is currently managing 21 projects in St. Thomas, St. John District and 15 on St. Croix. During the first quarter of our fiscal year, we have expended $51.2 million for capital projects in the St. Thomas, St. John District and $55.2 million for projects in the St. Croix District. The hurricanes of September 2017 critically damaged the U.S. Virgin Islands and its ports infrastructure and temporarily deferred Viper's capital improvement program. Viper sustained over $85 million in hurricane-related damages to 119 port properties. We have substantially completed most of our restoration projects. Most recently, we reopened the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Terminal on St. John that was destroyed in the storms. The new 3,000 square foot terminal is a sturdier facility made of concrete and should better withstand storm winds. This will help St. John resume critical marine operations faster in the event of another storm. The new terminal cost $1.9 million and was opened for public use in September of 2021. Other hurricane restoration projects currently ongoing include the rebuilding of our purchasing and warehouse facility and the Limburg Bay Park on St. Thomas. We expect to have both completed late this summer. On St. Croix, a new office and cargo warehouse is under construction to replace the building at the Wilfred Bumba Alec Port and Transshipment Center that was damaged in the storms. The $15.9 million project is being performed by our construction manager at risk, Lamar Tech. We also recently paved the operational area, repaired the roll-on, roll-off ramp at this facility, and added another bollard to increase the number of cargo ships we can safely accommodate at this port. The Cyrilli King Airport Terminal is approximately 32 years old and was constructed to accommodate 300,000 passengers. However, prior to the pandemic, Cyrilli King processed over 700,000 travelers annually, more than double what it was designed to accommodate. Sika was also the most severely damaged Viper-owned facility and was our most challenging facility to restore. We have significantly completed the storm damages and have also renovated all the first floor restrooms in the terminal. The restoration of the terminal was done in conjunction with plans to expand and modernize this facility. The Cyrilli King Airport Terminal expansion and modernization project includes the addition of jet bridges, new parking, garage facilities, and a potential water taxi pier that has a direct connection to the terminal to service our BVI traffic. The project will be completed in 4 stages over a 6-year period. The first stage is the construction of a 4-level parking, garage, and transportation center. Our project contractor, AT Construction, began work March 2021 and is expected to be completed in 24 months. The parking and transportation center will have 600 parking spaces and a dedicated location for ground transportation and car rental operations, removing these services from the existing terminal, which give us much needed real estate to expand. This $26.8 million project is funded via a $20 million grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration received in 2019. Viper is required to provide a $6.8 million match. Phase 2 through 4 include redesign, expansion, and modernization of the interior of the terminal to make the best use of the 2 floors of the terminal and the installation of jet bridges, additional lounge, and concession spaces to provide more eateries, retail stores, and contemporary travel amenities, tropical landscaping, improvement to the flow of vehicular traffic, and more. While phase 1 of the Sika terminal expansion is fully funded, Viper is actively seeking funding sources for phases 2 to 4. The total project cost is estimated to be approximately $250 million. Hira Terminal Expansion and Modernization Project. The Hira Terminal is also being expanded and modernized in 4 phases. The U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Authority awarded Viper a $7 million grant to fund the first phase of the terminal's expansion, which include enclosing 5,500 square feet of walkway space to increase the seating capacity in the lounge, refurbishing the existing passenger lounge space and restrooms, enclosing 1,100 square foot open air conditioned garden with a new roof structure to provide additional concession space, and upgrading the mechanical system for the additional air conditioner area. The project contractor is J. Benton Construction, and completion of this first phase is expected in August 2022. The 33rd legislature approved an appropriation of $1.6 million for this project to act as a funding source to assist us. While phase one of the Hira terminal expansion is fully funded, Viper is actively seeking funding sources of phase 2 to 4. The project is estimated to cost $140 million. Viper's board approved an airline incentive to encourage competitive pricing and to attract new routes and airlines to the territory. Per federal law, any qualifying airline may apply for Viper's incentive program. Airlines qualify for the incentive program if they will provide airlift via a new route or added flights on an existing route already served by the airline to St. Croix or St. Thomas. To reduce overcrowding at the Sierra King Airport terminal during peak hours, the incentive is also available to airlines that would provide flights to St. Thomas after 5 p.m. During the incentive period, landing fees are waived for 1 year, and terminal arrival and departure fees are reduced by 50% for a year. The current incentive was approved for the period beginning December 1, 2020 through November 30th, 2022. Austin Bay Monsanto Marine Terminal in St. Thomas. My team has recently met with cruise line executives to discuss the operational requirements that will be necessary to resume cruises in the territory. Viper will work closely with the West Indian Company Limited, the VI Department of Health, and the Office of the Governor to ensure that our cruise facilities are prepared to welcome the return of cruise visits. An E. Abramson Marine Facility, St. Croix. The VI legislature approved Bill number 340013, an act appropriating $2,050,000 from the St. Croix Capital Improvement Fund to fully fund the replacement and repair the existing deteriorated tender landing pier at the Anne E. Abramson Marine Facility in Frederickstead, St. Croix. The tender pier landing along the south side of the Anne E. Abramson Marine Facility is primarily used by businesses conducting cruise ship excursion and tours, fishermen, and other small vessels operators. It was damaged during the 2017 storms and has greatly deteriorated since then as it is exposed to salt, water, and open air elements. Viper plans to replace it with a new 80-foot by 15-foot pier. Viper's board is also exploring the possibility of expanding the dock's capacity to accommodate the Quantum-class ships. Moffett & Nichols was hired to conduct a feasibility study for this venture. For the study's finding, the least expensive and most effective solution to expand the capacity of the Abramson Pier is estimated at $35 million. The legislature has appropriated $900,000 from the St. John Capital Improvement Fund to address much-needed repairs and improvement to the Loridon L. Boynes Dock in Cruise Bay, St. John. The project entails resurfacing the entire pier to ensure a smooth, uniform surface, installation of a canopy adjacent to the existing terminal to provide added protection from inclement weather, a unisex restroom facility, and an electrical room to facilitate a backup emergency generator. The project will be put out on bid, and construction is expected to begin later this summer. The dredging of the Schooner Bay Channel at the Gallows Bay Marine Facility has stalled pending approval of the permit by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The legislature has assisted Viper by appropriating $7 million to dredge the Schooner Bay Channel to help Viper complete the seaside modification needed to transform the Gallows Bay facility on St. Croix into an upscale port for mini cruise ships and luxury vessels. Viper completed a landside improvement and built a dual-purpose passenger terminal at this facility in 2019 to transform this port into a passenger and luxury vessel seaport. All cargo operation will cease at this facility when a project is completed and shifted to the Garden A. Finch Molasses Pier. The construction of a new cargo terminal and improvement to the dock at the Garden A. Finch Molasses Pier are currently in progress. This $24 million project is funded via a $10.6 million grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation Marine Administration. Matching funds in amount of $3.8 million was appropriated by the legislature of the Virgin Islands during the 33rd legislature. This project should be completed this fall. The shoreline revetment project at the Overson Seaplane Terminal in Christiansted, St. Croix, was completed in December of 2020. This project repaired the shoreline that had been destabilized over the years due to storms, wave action, rain winds, and landslide runoff. The federally mandated project entailed the construction of a new concrete bulkhead to provide a safer facility for travelers and the operators of the seaplane service. The project cost was $3.5 million. Before I conclude, I would like to thank my staff for their continued hard work and innovation, and the members of the Virgin Islands Port Authority Governing Board for their guidance and support. I would also like to thank the traveling public and the community for their patience as we strive to rebuild our facilities stronger and better, and to better serve the needs of our community and the traveling public. My team and I will continue to work diligently to provide safe and comfortable facilities to make the travelers' entrance and departure experiences to this territory safe and as pleasant as possible. Updates about our progress are broadcasted on local radio stations and in the print media and posted on our website at www.viport.com. The public is encouraged to follow Viper on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and liking social media pages. I would be remiss if I concluded my testimony without extending a sincere thank you to the members of the legislature, the Brian Roach administration for the continued assistance extended to the Port Authority during these trying economic times. Funding the projects to improve the ports for our residents and visitors is an illustration of the great achievements that are the result of various branches of our government working together for the betterment of the people of the Virgin Islands. Thank you again, Chairman Gittins, for the opportunity to share the accomplishments of the Virgin Islands Port Authority with its body, our stakeholders, and our community. My staff and I are available to answer any questions that the body might have for us.
Thank you, Executive Director Dow and your team, and for the public's knowledge as well. We did have a walk-through tour of the facilities with the Executive Director and some of his engineering staff. And we do have some footage that we would like to show you what's happening behind the scenes. Work is moving, and what I'll do is I'll ask the Executive Director, as the video is being played, if you can just narrate and guide us through the videos. And while they queue it up, I also want to thank the staff who went out there and assisted with this footage. Thank you all very much, as a large number of our community would not be able to see the inner workings. So I believe
what you're seeing there is the expansion of the hold room area. That's the interior part of what you saw outside. That's the grant that we got from EDA in the amount of $7 million. That project would cost approximately $8 million. So that's the expansion project being done by Jay Benton in St. Croix. Would give you, that's Damien Cartwright in the picture. That project that's happening in St. Croix would add additional about 200 more seating area, I believe, increase the capacity. That's some new seating that we put in there, and the drops are going in so that folks would be able to charge their phone or their whatever devices they have. That's the drop boxes you see in there in the facility.
Terminal design. These are brand new seats. These are brand new seats. What you see, the floor slabs are being cut. These are all electrical drops so that
facility, we would have at least 2 new restaurants concessions set up in the seating area of the new build-out area that we're seeing. So we're currently putting in new air condition and so forth in that area. If you were to have 2 American Airlines on the ground right now, it poses a challenge. We'd be able to accommodate at least approximately like 4 jets if they were to be done, and the ground 3 jets at the same time.
Executive Director, just as we move over to the next one, you stated that this particular project is due to be completed when?
I think August of 22.
2022.
Memory serves me correct.
Okay.
Okay, the gentleman you're seeing to your left, that's Tafari Nelson, that's one of our engineers. And the first picture here, the molasses pier, Garden Finch molasses pier, what we're looking at now, and that's some active construction that's ongoing. Well, the picture you're looking at currently is that of the warehouse, where your Tropical and your Crowley would be able to, the huge warehouse would be constructed there. That's the pile that's been driven there. And that is being constructed and that's being constructed by Lamar Tech. And that would be a improvement on the capacity for us to store goods when the Tropical and the Crowley. Now, what you're looking at in this other picture is the actual Garden Finch molasses pit. So that's your build out, that's the interior. So that project is significant because that is what would stop or close out the Gallows Bay operation, and all Gallows Bay operation currently would be headed to the molasses pier. And of course, you can see we're well underway with that project. We expect to have that project completed before the end of this year. So it'll be able to accommodate our dockmaster office. It'll have CBP in there, and there'll be several cargo bays. That's Damien giving the tour. But you'll have several cargo bays, which means that we really would be, by the end of this year, see the whole transformation of Gallows Bay, no longer accepting cargo, and all the cargo activity will be. This is a significant project for the Port Authority, the people of St. Croix, and the territory at whole. That would give us the opportunity then to start the transformation of setting up Gallows Bay for a mini cruise port, and also expanding recreational activities, stores, restaurants, and so forth, the connection of the Broadwalk that the administration had been talking about. That project is moving pretty good, pretty much on target. That's being done by AT Construction. And that's the project we talk about. 15 point some odd $1 million is the cost of the project, 10.6 of it being a federal grant we received several years ago. This encompasses, and in a minute we should be going across the street where the roll on, roll off, where the actual, your inter-island transportation, your normal EH the priority rural, the area in which that comes in. That's what that's the area where the roll on, roll off would be. So within the next 2 weeks, the entire floor there will be paved. Concrete pouring should be happening within the next couple of weeks.
And this particular project here is slated to be completed when?
Probably, I would say by October this year. I always like to give myself a little wiggle room. But this is moving quickly. It's a big open up area. Again, the offices and the CBP would be moving all operations down to this area.
Okay.
And while I'm at it, I just want to continue to thank those folks who look after our federal grants. You have one of them right there, Anis and the entire staff who continue to make sure that we do our reporting. So what you're seeing there now is the new bulkhead, the new roll-on, roll-off. So that's where the vessels that run from Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, St. Croix, that entire island I spoke about, all your normal H, your priority, RoRo, your water, spirit, that brings with us sometimes fuel and the like. So all the fuel stuff that's been stored up in Gallows Bay will be gone, will be a thing of the past. And so both projects go hand in hand in terms of you saw the building, it's just the street separates them. So the cargo will be coming in right here, they'll pull up and then you transport them into the warehouses. So it'll be a great operation in terms of how we move in cargo and the way we're able to operate and taking all of that activity out of the town of Christiansted.
And who are the engineers on this again? We have some local engineers working on this project, correct?
Well, this I think was designed. We have some folks that actually did the designing, but our engineers that oversees all these projects, it starts out with Damian Cartwright, who is our director of engineering for the next couple of weeks. And then we have Dale Gregory in St. Thomas. He's the assistant director of engineering. In St. Croix in particular, we have some youngsters. We have Tafari Nelson, who we hired about 2 years ago, fresh out of school. You have a mechanical engineering degree. He's been a real asset to the authority, along with Miss Armstrong, another young lady who we hired about 2 years ago. Both are young people from St. Croix that we have given the opportunity to broaden their skill set. And they are the ones who oversee these projects on a day-to-day basis. You saw both of them in the pictures from time to time, but we're really glad. We pride ourselves in trying to make sure that we have a new generation of engineers coming to the Port Authority.
Right. I wanted
Same
you to
thing.
highlight those young engineers for real, so that people could know what's happening and that our local people are being put to work in these areas. Are you with us still?
Yes, I am. This is now the seaplane terminal. If you could see, that's pure new concrete, real thick concrete. And a few years ago, most of the bulkhead were falling off into the water. And so that was just recently constructed. I think GAC was the contractor on that one. And you could see that was an older picture of what it had looked like before. And we also had a revetment program because there were some spill and leaks, and over time, all the water, all the oil had and fuel, and we had to do a mitigation project there. So that project now is completed. That bulkhead has since been hardened, and so it's a beautiful project. All in all, it's over $3.5 million. That's Mr. Cartwright, our director of engineering, that you're seeing there discussing it, and that's Safari, our marine manager. And of course, the young lady from your office who accompanied us. So all of that concrete you're seeing is brand new.
What else needs to be done or will be done here at this facility?
Well, there is some discussion that must be had. The parking lot area don't look the best, but the Port Authority, let me repeat, the Port Authority we do not own the parking lot. The parking lot is owned by DPNR. That's a discussion been ongoing. And then also there's some work that's needed to the building. But that's some discussion we have to have with the company that leases, which is Seaborn.
So have that discussion began yet? Because that was indeed an issue. Just if you could pause there before we go to Gallows Bay Media, just pause there.
Yeah, we have had some off and on discussions with them, and we've got to accelerate those talks. So that's as much as I probably could say. We've had our disputes with them, to be quite frank, in terms of what's going on there. We're not overall comfortable with some of what the area looks like, and we are to do better.
What about addressing the gut area there? Oftentimes the gut there is filled with all the seaweed, and it just hampers operations there at times. Would that be on DPNR's part too, since the gut flows through the parking lot and driveway, or is that Port Authority?
No, that gut area don't belong to the port. And some time ago, for the longest while, and I'm glad we were able to communicate with the Commissioner of Public Works, and it was finally had some repair. There's a whole big ditch there. But no, the gut don't belong to the Port Authority. Not even the parking lot belongs to the port. What belongs to us is just that area there where the building is located.
The facility.
And the apron, yes.
Okay. So we'll have a conversation with DPNR and Public Works with regards to the parking lot and the gut. Media, we could proceed with the Gallows Bay facility. You could go ahead, Director.
Yeah, that's our Gallows Bay facility that was constructed a couple of years back. And what you're looking at is the old warehouses. And the reason, and I'm glad that, Senator, that yourself and your staff took the time out and we use this so the public that normally wouldn't get to see these things. Because while we're talking about having, for example, your inter-island ferry as we speak, your fast ferry that runs from St. Thomas to St. Croix, that's the area that they come in, although they use a different entrance and exit. That whole area, it definitely has to be rehabilitated. When you look at the roadway and so forth. And so this is the same area that we're talking about. We want mini cruise ships to come. So when you could see all the plywood, the 2x4, whatever you consume from the inter-island perspective, that comes right into that facility. So it's really critical that we move all the operation down to the molasses pier, which is only a matter of hopefully by the end of this year, all of that would see transformed. We'll tear down those warehouses, and then we'd like to see the whole area graded, paved, clean up, and then whether it's shops, stores, restaurants, and do a real expansion of an actual port. You could see the interior, that it's immaculate. That's the new building that was done. GEC was the contractor there. It's a beautiful facility. It's now being used by the ferry folks, the inter-island ferry folks. Outside of that, we have a nice little area there whether somebody wants to set up a little bar and soft stuff. We're open for business. We had put it out for a bid, and we didn't really get no successful folks at the time. But I'm pretty sure by the time we transform the cargo down to the molasses pier, I suspect folks would want to utilize it. And so if you have there's a small function when COVID allows it, we'd be more than glad to list it to the public at large that it could utilize. It's a very nice facility and a beautiful place to hold an event. It sits right there on the water for the most part. And we're in St. Thomas now, and what you kind of taking some aerial of the parking garage. That's a $26.8 million project. And that work has started, I think, the end of this month. We have the official groundbreaking. One of the challenges, or some of the challenges the territory, or we are seeing with a lot of the construction projects, is the ability to get the actual concrete mixture that we need from heavy materials at this point. So that's been a little hindrance, even on the airport side. But that's the work that's going on there right now. And I continue to thank the staff, all who work on it, all who continue to monitor it, manage it, and make sure we do the right thing, get the drawdowns when appropriate, and so forth. So again, the staff continue to oversee these projects. What you're looking at is our purchasing building. You went a little quick there, but that's a new building. Our purchasing building was destroyed from the hurricane, and by the end of this month, they're telling me that we should be going into our purchasing building. You went back, but that's the purchasing building again. You've seen. So the water park, I know this weekend they had a little function there. Our staff been doing a yeoman's job, getting the water park ready, putting in the little basketball court. That's one of the most used facility, probably recreationally around here. And so we're opening it back up for business that the public could enjoy while they do their social distancing. Summer coming, the young people love it, the adults love it. We hold weddings there and whatever other parties and so forth. And in the background of that, that's part of the purchasing building that was just recently rebuilt. That picture there is our new Bob O'Connor maintenance building. And now we're down in Crowley. That's where we just got a grant for some $21.8 million. As you could see how badly the surface has deteriorated. And all throughout there with the heavy equipment, the containers and so forth, it's a safety issue. And the staff, we were able to, and that's what we talk about, putting people together. This was a joint application that the port was the primary applicant, but it was done in conjunction. A lot of the legwork and the field work was done by both Tropical and Crowley. Mind you, competitors coming together for one common goal, one common interest. So we were able to bring both parties together, and we were successful. We work with our consultants in and out of the territory. So the design is happening as we speak. We hope to get those designed probably the end of this month, so that $21.9 million would be would go to work. And I want to take, Senator, a couple minutes so that the people, the public could understand the gravity of that project. A lot of the commodities that go from, that ships into St. Thomas, and in some instances, St. Croix, goes on to other islands in the Eastern Caribbean. And so it's not the goods that comes into our territory only, but goods that are transported. And that's why we need to expand what is happening in St. Thomas. I know there is some legislation that the Senator Donna Fred Gregory has. We really need that to happen for the growth of the territory and the port at large. We have brought the same parties, Tropical and Crowley, together, and along with the Port Authority, and we're now in the phase of jointly trying to do another application, and this time it's for the container port in St. Croix, to try to see if we could be successful in getting a grant to the tune of $20+ million for the container port. So we're working actively, and the only way sometimes we survive is through these major grants and having our staff, our consultants, and the entities such as Crowley and Tropical participating. And the good thing I want to tell the public about this, when we talk about corporate, being good corporate partners, corporate citizens, the matching requirement for that grant, and even for the one that we're trying to do in St. Croix, but the grant that we just got, the matching requirement was $6 million. Well, the Port Authority didn't have the wherewithal, neither did the central government. The matching grant for that project was borne by both Crowley and Tropical Shipping. So they are the ones who put up the $6 million so that the Port Authority could have the match so that we could get that $21.9 million project going. And they are now actively working in the design phase. Our internal engineers are the ones reviewing and making sure that it's a facility that we want. So I really appreciate the working relationship we share with those two major shipping entities.
Thank you, Executive Director, and your team again. Before I move on, let me acknowledge the presence of Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff on St. Thomas. Welcome. Earlier, I think I saw the at-large senator, Stephen Payne. Colleagues, will roll right into a 7-minute round, and it'll be started, will be led by the Vice President, who also has the bill on the South Shore Enterprise Zone. And we'll proceed from Senator Francis to Senator James, and to our Senate President, Fred Gregory, then Senator Potter, and Senator DeGraff. 7 minutes. Vice President, you're recognized for your 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, my colleagues. Good morning to the folks from the Virgin Islands Port Authority, and of course, good morning to the people of the Virgin Islands. I too would like to start off by extending a happy Police Week, certainly to all of our law enforcement officers, and do wish them a very good and enjoyable week, and to strongly encourage our community to, again, when you meet a cop, to really just thank them for the work and the fact that they continue to put their lives on the line for this community. It's a good feeling this morning. I'm certainly in the room with two of my additional alumni from the John Jay College. So I know that it's a good, well, as we talk about Police Week, certainly it's a good day. I also want to commend you, Director Dow, for your leadership with the number of projects that's going on with the Virgin Islands Port Authority. It continues to be progressive. It continues to, again, make our gateways one that is certainly profitable, as well as to be accessible, so and really speak to economic development. So I extend my appreciation to you and the team, as well as the board, who continue to support you in that endeavor. My first question to you this morning is in regards to, you spoke about the fact that there have been some increased air travels to St. Croix. You have not really seen any additional flights come into St. Croix. Can you speak to any negotiation or discussion that's being had in order to be able to improve and increase our flights into the St. Croix airport?
Well, thanks, and again, happy Police Week to all as well. Just prior to COVID, I know that there are some talks, the Commissioner of Tourism, Mr. Joe Bushelter, Governor Albert Bryan, and myself participated in directly with Frontier Airlines, and hence came the flight that we are seeing now. What I want to also mention is that in our discussions, one of the first things or forefront that we discuss is what we could do in St. Croix in terms of additional flights. And what I would say is that there are some negotiations right now that I know that we've been discussing relative to St. Croix, and in particular Frontier, and what those possibilities are. And in their expansion, we're discussing their new expansion. And back when they were discussing the expansion, St. Croix was probably somewhere about 10 and 11, and any new expansion that has now bumped up tremendously between up to, I think, about number 3. And that's just saying that when they look for new routes in which they want to expand to, that what was 10 now, in where they looked at St. Croix, that's now higher. What's going to happen? I suspect the demand will drive what really happens there in terms of any other flights that would come in. Clearly, just like St. Thomas right now, one of the challenges still continue to be hotel rooms and so forth. I know there is some initiative that some senators in St. Croix have been moving as to new accommodations. So that's an important part of the growth. But I'm optimistic that we will see some new movement in St. Croix. There is what they call routes. The Port Authority participated. We were not able to go to routes this year, which is the Tourism Commissioner, myself, and others. We participate in routes sometime over in Colorado, and that's where we have the one-on-one discussion with the various airlines. But there's a combination of things, and I just hope that we would see some movement and some more movement on the St. Croix side.
Very well, Director.
Airlines that actually added some
I
slides.
have a few more questions, so I didn't want you to run all my
Sorry.
time. You know how it is, right?
I'm
We only
sorry.
got 7 minutes.
I'm sorry.
So in regards to the Caribbean, though, while we talk about additional flights, is there any discussion in respect to being able to move individual quickly, down islands into the Caribbean while you're having those discussions? Especially from St. Croix. I think you do have Liat back into St. Thomas, but from St. Croix to be able to navigate our Caribbean islands. Just a short
Well, we
version.
still have, I just wanted to say we still have challenges. Even to be honest with you, I have to be frank, even with Liat. So those challenges still exist. Anything more than that, we don't have any major development that I can tell you today as to moving on to the Caribbean.
2 minutes.
Very well. My time is running. So in regards to the seaborne lease and the build out that's required in terms of the passenger lounge up at the various seaborne areas, is there any plan to be able to really make that a little bit more appealing? And rather than sitting under a tent and out in the element, any plans to address that situation at Seaborne?
I will just like to say that there have been discussion. We don't like it. We look at the list carefully. And I can tell you that we've been on the conference call with their president, and we've let our dissatisfaction be known to them. And what we're looking at, we have to look closely as to the list. And, I would like to probably leave it there. I don't want to get in trouble today.
Very well, very well. I'll leave it there as well. So 2 things real quickly in regards to the Schooner Bay channel dredging. Can you give us the short version as what's creating that delay in making that happen?
Right, and I think I misspoke. That we are scheduled to get a $7 million grant from EDA for that project. And every federal entity, first, we will only deal with Army Corps when we started out to get a permit. We got a local permits already, but hence came the problem because every other institution, fisheries, NOAA, everybody else has to weigh in on this permit. So it became a much longer, protracted, cumbersome. Whatever question they have asked, our consultant have answered, and we continue to be in and hold in kind of waiting until we have escalated this situation with the permitting with our delegate, the governor, and everybody we could talk to. But I don't have nothing concrete that I could tell you. They're telling us, they have said to us that hopefully by the end of this year, we probably could get that permit and some others we have outstanding. I don't know if anything Anis could add.
Very well. And Mr. Chair, if I may just wrap up.
You may.
In regards to firearm enforcement, I know that there have been some discussion by the police commissioner and others that have come before us recently, where there is some work that's being done jointly, some collaboration between the Virgin Islands Port Authority Police and the VIPD in being able to document the firearms that's coming into the territory. Can you speak to that, or have one of your chief speak to what's being done in that regard?
Thank you. I know I have 2 chiefs on the line, and they're getting paid today, so both chiefs could respond, please.
Yes, good morning, Senator, Chief Wilkes. Currently, VIPD is manning the location of the airport. When they're not available, we will take control of the firearms and do all the necessary paperwork, and then turn that firearm over to the person in charge of the Firearm Bureau. And that's the procedure for now. But once we get tips on firearms or anything, we pass it on to VIPD or we intervene.
And of course, that's that have been, the enforcement have also allowed for proper signage and notification, throughout the airports that, again, require those individuals that's coming in with their firearm to be able to report those firearms immediately to the police department. Correct, Chief?
That's correct, Senator. Those signs are posted throughout the entire airport.
Very well.
If I may, Senator, I'm Louis Flynn, St. Croix District. We are currently working with VIPD and the signage on our end. So in reference to positioning the signage.
Very well. My time have been called, but I can't leave the mic without again commending the work that's being done by the Port Authority, especially as they continue to work towards our South Shore Enterprise Zone. And really, I'm really excited by the prospect of that and putting people to work, simplifying, the ability to be able to transport goods in and out of the territory. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Vice President Francis. Next up, Senator Giovanni James Sr. You're recognized for your 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for putting together this well-needed hearing. I am one that don't really give people praises just like that, but I must say, Director Carlton Dow, you are definitely doing a hell of a job. You are a mover and shaker. I've seen it for myself. I remember the time when you also assisted us when we were trying to get that property and the leasing agreements for the Caribbean Drag Racing Association. You came through, you helped us. There was another time where a local Virgin Islands musician wanted to use the port for recording a video, and you did not hesitate to approve it. And I could go on and on with the many things that you're doing. But before I give any extra praises to you, I want to say that you have a hell of a public relations officer. The press releases are always on point. The social media platforms are all up to date. Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, everything is on point. And I wish more government agencies can get on board as far as being digitized and getting that information out there. So kudos to your public relations officer. You're doing an amazing job. But as far as the Virgin Islands Port Authority Governing Board, I know sometime back last year there was an 8-1 vote to enter into negotiations for a hotel near the Henry E. Rollson Airport. You briefly touched on it when the Vice President was speaking, but in your testimony or something that you made mention that Mr. Cartwright is only here with us for several weeks.
Yeah, he has indicated, and we have no issues. He has indicated that he'll be moving on to do some other ventures. So it's an employee that we really, he has been very good to the port. It's been a real mainstay here at the port, but that's why we have to try to continue some serious succession planning. So we wish him well.
Thank you, Mr. Dow.
He's not leaving with any issues. He's leaving on a high note.
Thank you, Mr. Dow, because that is a big loss. The reason why I'm tying in Mr. Cartwright into the conversations with the hotel, I know he was the lead person on that along with your legal team. So as far as the possibility and the likeliness of this hotel coming to the District of St. Croix, can you just give us a brief status update, or is that something you cannot speak on right now?
Well, what I can tell you, our legal people and the principals are discussing at least what the board authorized, and I'm glad you asked the question because it won't just happen tomorrow. What the board authorized us to do is to be able to negotiate a lease with these principals, and in those leases would have certain timelines and what they could do and what they can't, and within what time would they have to execute based on a mutual agreement. So that's where they are now. The legal people are having those discussions and talking what kind of investment would go forward. Yeah.
So I'm hoping and praying that in the meantime, while we have Mr. Cartwright, somebody is up under him, soaking in all that information to make sure that we have that transition. So conversations as far as the negotiations with this possible hotel development and St. Croix continues without any hurdles. Are we doing that?
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, my mother used to tell me when one man dead is another man bread. But the fact is, we're not going to stop. It doesn't stop. And again, I don't want to minimize Mr. Carter has been an excellent part of our team. However, as a matter of fact, there's nothing the engineering division directly is doing with our project. No, it's all up to our legal and property management side of things. But so we would move on. We continue to go forward.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dow. And I'm a bit concerned regarding our young engineers at the Port Authority, because as you mentioned, as we broaden their skill set as young Virgin Islanders, Senator James, hope and pray that we work towards retaining them and having some level of stability. because as of April 3rd, based on the Instagram post, I see that there's a position for a senior engineer position on St. Croix and St. Thomas. What is the status of those vacancies or positions? Are they new positions?
No, we are just filling some positions that became vacant for different reasons. But we must understand, for example, a senior engineer, it comes with not just education, but years in service in that particular field. And so, I mean, people that work with me, my staff, could tell you that one of the things that we really look deeply at is in-house, how we can continue to, move people within our organization upward. But those engineers that we have, in St. Croix in particular, we have 2 people left in engineering.
2 minutes.
And they are probably 2 years on the job. Right out of school, we hire those folks. And in St. Thomas, some are the same, but we are trying to see how we could, fill some of those positions. But the one thing I want to make clear is that the private sector versus government, and we still government, and what some of those salaries ranges are, it's really far. And sometimes in this small community, we pay somebody $100,000 and then it's come like the sky falling. But we send our children to school, and the fact of the matter is that somewhere along the line, that's what we have to look at in terms of, trying to keep people might want to be here, but at the same time, if our salaries aren't competitive, then they would opt to go elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Dow. And as we speak about engineering, can you speak to me regarding any conversations with the Port Authority and the Department of Public Works, since you are both a part of the governor's cabinet? The reason why I'm asking about that, as you enter into the road leading to the airport, and directly right there before you even get your little car to come into the airport, the road is horrible, it's unlevel. Are you having those conversations? Because I am not one of those individuals that put St. Thomas against St. Croix. But when you come into St. Thomas Airport, it's a nice paved road leading to the airport. Can you speak to what are we doing as far as conversations with the Department of Public Works to make sure that we have a great experience for visitors and locals alike when coming to the airport?
I appreciate the question, but I just want to be clear, because we're not, the Port Authority Executive Director is not a part of the cabinet, but one of the board member, which is the Commissioner of Public Works, is on our board by law. So I could tell you we've been having those discussions. As a matter of fact, when you go down Gallows Bay, I think I mentioned it, I'm not pleased with how the whole corridor, they're telling us that they expect to start some kind of work down there soon. The airport entrance and exit, just for the record, the Port Authority went ahead and paid quite a bit of money to light it up because it wasn't lighted. And we talk about whether it's WAPA job or who job, but we can't take on the paving, and I'll bring that again to the Commissioner of Public Works attention in terms of the exit of the airport, and hope we could do something about that soon. I'm pretty sure he will. So I really appreciate it.
If I can just conclude.
You may.
I have the utmost respect for Avery Lewis, and I wish some others might take a page out of Avery Lewis' page. But every time I go on Avery Lewis' page, he's bragging and boasting, this road is being paved, this is being paved. Seeing like he calling the shots. So we need individuals on St. Croix, I guess, to call the shots to make sure that our airport on the island of St. Croix has a good road leading to and from. So I know it's not your job, but you are appointed by the governor. You guys meet on a regular basis, I'm hoping. So you can have those conversations with the commissioner. He's no longer a nominee. He was approved. Congratulations. I didn't vote for him because I think he's but I leave it as that. But you have work to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thanks, Senator. Try to have a good day.
Thank you, Senator James. Madam President, you're recognized for your 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning to the testifiers, and good morning to the listener and viewing audience. And of course, a special good morning to my Viper family. So I'm going to shift the conversation just a little bit. I want to talk about your fiscal outlook, because I know that since the pandemic, you've been challenged significantly. And of course, I also want to congratulate the executive director, Mr. Carlton Ital Dow, for all the work that him and his team, that they've been doing since the storms and before. So congratulations, and continue to ensure that, economic development continues to move in an upward trajectory here in the Virgin Islands. But let's talk about your budget. So I note in your testimony, you made reference to, and please make your responses succinct. You made reference to your budget for FY 2021 being some $150 million. Are you on target to collect, and I'm certain that included in that is some federal funds as well, but are you on target to collect the portion of the budget that was tied to projected revenues?
Ms. Penn, you could respond.
My time is running.
Sorry, my mute. Good day, Senator. As of right now, we're on target for aviation. Marine, we are having some difficulties. We're still on the hope that the cruise ships will return. It's going to take a joint effort of everyone, the Senate, the government, and us. So that's where we're at. We've been able to use some of I would say the CARES Act on the aviation side, so that's taken care of, but we're still having issues on the marine side.
So how do you plan to fill the delta on the marine side? Because I note specifically that the executive director spoke about the fact that during the entire situation with the COVID-19, the Port Authority maintained its employees. So how do you intend to continue on that trajectory absent of additional resources? Is it that you're getting funds from the CARES Act from the governor, or is there funding set aside for operations under the, what is it? I forgot the name of the new, I forgot the name of it, the new funding that just became available on the national level.
Sorry. Go ahead, Anna.
Go ahead, Director.
Well, what I can tell you, two things we did. One is that we had established a line of credit with a local lending institution just to give us some room to operate. And then secondly, yes, we expect to, we've been talking with the administration, we expect to try to get some assistance from the federal legislation that was passed, yes.
Okay, so you are getting assistance from the, God, help me with the name. I can't believe that it escapes me. It's not, I can't remember. Come on, Mr. Doe, you know the name. America's, yes, the Hope, is it Hope funding? Rescue funding, yes, the American Rescue Funds. So you are getting funding to support the marine side, because I am concerned about the marine side. But let's talk about all of the, and this is just for the public to understand how things work in the Port Authority. So let's talk about all of the boats that we're seeing in our harbors. Have you seen an increase in your docking fees on the marine side? Of course, I know that you're challenged with the cruise ship side, but have you seen an increase in the docking fees due to the increase of the boats in the harbors, and how are you in fact managing that?
Matthew, you want to respond, or Anna, quickly?
As far as the boats in the harbor, Marine Manager Matthew can chime in, but that is managed by DP&R. We only get docking fees if they come to the dock.
I know, I wanted to make sure that we put it out there. You only get docking fees if they come to the dock. So I wanted to make sure that, the community understands that there's two sides to this particular coin. So thank you for that, but let's talk about the dock. So why are we not seeing boats coming up to the dock in the St. Thomas Harbor in particular?
Matthew, quickly.
Mainly because of the electric. They want water. They would like to have a a safe environment to dock up. So that's what we're in the process of upgrading all the mooring equipment, the fenders, and the cleats, which have been completed. But there's still a need for safety and water. So for the phase waterfront project, that'll all be rectified.
Okay, so it's the challenge is that you're having the resources that the boaters are needing, you're unable to provide it at this particular time.
Correct, because they're not.
Okay.
So we don't have that at all.
Okay. All right. So that's something that we really need to talk about, because I see where the Port Authority in particular could have been generating some good revenues from that, because it used to happen years ago. Of course, things have changed. Also, let's talk about the airport side just a little bit. So you spoke specifically that in the month of February of 2020, you compared February 20 and February 2021 as it relates to your revenues for air arrivals. And you said that you saw, I believe, a 45% decrease. So how does your March and April look? Are you seeing a decrease still? And I asked the question because, you know, we're seeing a lot of arrivals coming into the territory. So tell us what your February and your comparison between your March and April years look like between 20 and 2021.
Time.
Ms. Penn.
You may continue.
We just finished up March right now. We have not got the final figures. It still would not be an increase. It will still be on the decrease side. We're hoping that by June, we should see it at least even, based on the tracking of how the numbers are going.
All right, my time has been called. Mr. Chair, can I ask one last question?
I did say you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the CARES Act funding, you spoke specifically to $21.5 million for the St. Croix District Airport St. Thomas Airport, and 19.6 for the St. Croix Airport. Exactly what does that funding entail? What are you doing with those funds?
Those funds are basically to augment our operation at the airport. For example, our day-to-day operation. With those same funding, we could pay some personnel. You see the monitors down there, security type equipment. So it's just you can't do no major capital repairs with those money. Anything operational, for the most part, you can use those funds. And remember, it's on a reimbursement basis. And I could tell you two major purchases that we're doing. We had to get authorization from FAA, but the team and I, we went outside the box, and we just we ordered 2 new fire apparatus, $1 million each for each district, because that was one of the big findings or big problems we had with our FAA inspection. So they allow us to use that for that big capital expenditure for fire apparatus in both districts. But it's basically all your airport operation outside major capital projects.
All right, thank you for your responses. And I'm going to wrap up by and you could answer on the chair's time. You note specifically in your testimony that you're looking to several phases of renovations to both Sika and HERA to the tune of some $400 million. And I would like to hear from you, what are the plans to begin the conversation as to how we are going to fund the expansion, the redevelopment, et cetera, of these two airports to the tune of $250 million at Sika, $150 at HERA. You may answer on the chair's time. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
You're speaking for the chair now, man. You may proceed with your response.
Oh boy, it sounds so familiar. Anyhow, I think that's an excellent question, but what we expect to do, just like, for example, the transportation center parking garage is one of those phases that we have started. That's $26.8 million. The other phase, the second phase, on both here and in St. Croix, what we expect to do, we put a whole white paper together that we, up to, I think 2 weeks ago, Governor Albert Bryan and myself went over step for step on his legal people, because we recognize that in the territory itself, we'll never get that done like that. So that's why in this white paper, we have sent it to our delegate, and we're looking at the new infrastructure bill that's making its way through the United States Congress. We have worked with a consultant on board that the administration have in Washington, D.C. We have provided them that white paper and given them all the supporting information as to our airport, both airports, the needs, and giving them some design, some description as to all those projects. Because in the scheme of things, whether it's going to be 2-3 trillion or what have you, we want to make sure that we have brought our concerns to the highest levels of not only the local government, we have discussed with the legislature from time to time, but also with the United States Congress. We have sent this same white paper to 2 of the congressional people. We have also provided this entire document to our Congress lady, Ms. Stacey Plaskett. So we pay attention for my own past life. I know how vital and critical it is to get the dialogue going with the national level and the political people that could bring some assistance to us as a territory.
Thank you, Executive Director. Our powerful Rules Committee Chair, Senator Potter, you're recognized for your 7 minutes, followed by Senator DeGraff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Executive Director Dow, and your team. I also want to just extend kudos to you, similar to what was echoed by my colleagues regarding the major infrastructure development initiatives that we're seeing at the Virgin Islands Port Authority, even as we navigate our way through a very difficult global pandemic. Director Dow, Executive Director Dow, you mentioned earlier, I guess on page 1 of your report, about the PFCs, and I just wanted to get a little elaboration on that. You said that the primary source of the authority's operating revenues is customer and rental fees charged to users of our airport and marine facilities. Our funding source include federal grants, federally approved passenger facility charges, PFCs added to airline tickets, and appropriations for a specific project via the USVI legislature. And I think you mentioned that you were asking for an extension from the federal government on the collection of these fees. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Okay. Anna, you want to speak to that? The PFCs quickly.
The PFCs, it's still a federal program. Just basically another form of a grant. We have to apply and get the extension. We did have one extended already, and so that's complete. And it's $450 a passenger for an approved project that is passed through the airlines and the federal government.
So in other words, Senator, all that happened is somebody need to meet. All what happens, Senator, is that if we identify a project, we have a design. Even the design funding have to be approved by the federal government, and we collect that sum is $4.50. That passenger facility charge is legislated by the United States Congress. We can't change it, and it goes towards a specific upgrade to your airport. Normally, a safety areas is the priority area that money can be used for. But I'd like to just make it abundantly clear that unlike you, and let me just reference St. Martin or someplace, a passenger leaving there, you have to pay $35. And in the U.S. Virgin Islands, this is a federal mandate, and that the law that Congress passed is only $4.50 per ticket. So you could see very well that it's not a whole lot of money that you generate. It's probably about $4 to $5 million annually that you generate. And if you're talking about having like a St. Martin, 1 million passengers going through at $35, you know, so that's why some of these islands in the Caribbean could use that kind of financing to upgrade the facilities versus we having this mandate of 450.
Thank you very much for that clarification. My next question, Executive Director Dow, really is regarding the talk that we've heard here and there over the past couple of years and in recent years regarding the merger of WICO and Viper. Are there active discussions in that regard? Are you in talks with the governor of the Virgin Islands? Is that something that has been put on hold? Where are we with that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Just for the record, when I sit in the very same seat that you're sitting in, I proposed a legislation way back then. So the record is clear where I stand on that. However, there are active discussions going on with the administration, his legal folks, and so it's just discussion. That's what I can say now. But ultimately, the politics will have to dictate how far and when we go. But there are some active discussions that we're having along with the administration.
Okay, and you're confident that you're going to see some movement on that, or that we're going to get beyond the discussion stages? That's my question.
It would take at least 2 or 3 to tangle, or 2 or 3 to dance, but I don't know. I honestly can't say, but I believe something will happen before the end of this year. I honestly believe something will happen.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Executive
2 minutes.
Director Dow. What is the nature of your interaction with the Virgin Islands Police Department? I mean, do you have regular interaction with VIPD?
We do by the nature of our job, but the board chiefs could speak to that and what we do. Could any one of you chiefs respond, please?
Chief Wilkes, I could respond for St. Thomas side. On a daily basis, we interact with VIPD to the point where, you know, if accidents or anything happen on the road, anything close by, we respond and we take the reports. You know, we do whatever once it's in the vicinity.
Thank you for that, Chief. Chief Flynn?
Yeah, good day. The same here. We communicate on a daily basis, and we assist each other as needed. And I think we also have meetings that we attend.
Senator, I believe what was in terms of our interaction, I think what was a pretty good one, and I want to commend our officer at the time, Natalie Joseph, and all these other folks, because when the incident that recently took place up in St. John, it was VIPD communicating with us at the airport, our folks at the airport getting information, working with CBP. So we don't have a choice. We all have to be in this together, and you saw that it came to a successful end.
Yes, definitely. My last question that I have really, well, before I go on to the last question, regarding the K9 units, do we still have active K9 units in each district?
Time.
Both chiefs could respond.
In St. Thomas, I have 4 K9s, 3 explosive, 1 drug.
Yeah, Senator, in St. Croix, we are training. What?
You said you're training? I think we might have some issues with the with Chief Flynn's microphone at this time. Well,
no, I couldn't hear you, Senator.
About the K9, your K9 units, the status of your K9 unit on St. Croix, and I didn't hear your response clearly.
Currently in training with VIPD.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Potter. Senator DeGraff, Minority Leader, you're recognized for your 7 minutes. Testifiers, please mute your mics.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, testifiers, all viewing, listening, and present. Director Dow, I too would like to say thank you to you and your team for the hard work you're doing and transforming the Virgin Islands as a whole. And to Mr. Cartwright, thank you. I've been in several times you come before us to testify and you represented yourself well, you represented Viper well, and thank you in your future endeavors. I do appreciate what you have done. Director Dow, I like to address issues in terms of personnel, infrastructure, equipment, logistics. Your personnel, you said you had, I think, 365 employees, and you were able to hire some off of CARES Act money. How long would that employment last for based on the CARES Act monies?
Well, the CARES Act money, I think, is spread over a two-year period. But that don't mean that if it's something that we really need, that we wouldn't, in our upcoming budget, try to see how we can do it. We got the care money one way. We got additional, I think it was, Anna, maybe you could help me. Well, I think it's about $3 million because they have grant programs from time to time. So we expect to continue to try to get grants. But remember, it's not when COVID goes away, some of what we had to do might not be necessary anymore.
Okay, right. And I guess those employees, will you address them at that time? Now, in regard to employees, again, your personnel, do you have unions in Viper? How many unions do you have?
Certainly, if my memory serves me correctly, I think we have 5.
And how does the negotiation process go with them? Do they have existing contracts, or do they have contracts that have been expired? What is the status on the unions?
And Anna, you could help me out, but I know we have 2 that's already finished, completed. Those 2 that are being placed on step, getting any money that we owe them and so forth. And I think we hopefully reaching the tail end of another 2 or 3. But Anna or Anis, maybe you could respond to that.
Before you respond, Director, this chair usually don't allow I don't like the first name calling because I want the public to know who our leaders are and their positions so that if they have any questions, they will know who to call in these respective agencies. So I just want to ask everyone to please refer to each other by their titles and last names, please. Thanks.
All right, thanks. The Deputy Director, Ms. Anis Hodge, could you respond to that, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. The Executive Director is correct. We have approximately, I think, 2 outstanding unions right now that we're negotiating with. The others have.
I believe you may need to come closer to your device because you're having a feedback, and we can't see you in the camera now.
I know that helps. The Executive Director is correct. We have 2 outstanding unions that we're currently in negotiations with. The others have settled, and we are making payments, beginning to make the payments to those unions. Everything should be completed by the end of the summer.
Okay, everything meaning those that have negotiated, any money is due to them, you should start to see something by the end of the summer. That's what that means?
That is correct. We had some retroactivity included there, so everything, we're trying to pay everything, including the retro amounts, by at least the end of the summer, if not before.
Okay, great. Before sounds good. Now, because Director, you're as great as your personnel, and I think you have an old school, great set of people that work for you and work with you, and bringing in the new talent that you're bringing in is a collaboration. You can't go wrong. The infrastructure, the work done in the airport, what is the status of that for the employees in the facility? The airport in particular right now.
Okay, the airport is a work in progress. Again, this is a 32-year-old facility. We have all kind of union contract that we have to, and most time when you talk about the people in there, you're talking about the users who work in there, because most of our people don't literally work in there, they might work outside. But anyhow,
2 minutes.
those folks, they have contracts. For example, if it's employees of TSA, we have to meet their contractual mandates. We have issues sometimes with air condition. All kind of stuff happens like in any other process, but we try to address them and accommodate them. We've done a lot of work in terms of fixing up those areas. All restrooms have been replaced in other facility. We're still doing some construction in there, and it's a work in progress.
Okay, and again, it's good information to have, because again, sometimes you have employees who may have issues, and if we put it out that it's being worked on and at a reasonable time frame, I think is fair to the employees themselves. Now for the police, the rank structure for the police, what is it? We have a chief on each island. How many captains, how many lieutenants, sergeants, right down? What is the rank structure?
Okay. Right now we have a chief on board. We also have a lieutenant. We have a lieutenant opening now, I believe. Chief Flynn, you could help St. Croix. And then we have officers. We don't have any captains. We have folks assigned to K9 and the likes. But just when I came to the Port Authority, the structure was one chief, one lieutenant. Sergeants were created since I got here, just for the record. And we expect to try to grow some more, but at the same time, grow within the confines of what we could literally afford to do.
Time.
And I agree, but again, some of the issues, if I may, Mr. Chair?
You may.
Fine, okay, good. And some of the issues, again, there's so many other issues we could address, but being former police law enforcement, myself, and yourself, Director, I just want to make sure that vehicles, you have updated vehicles. I'll just end with the vehicle portion of it. Vehicles, and what is the starting salary for a Viper police officer? And you can answer in the chair's time. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
Fine. Vehicles, a matter of fact, I believe, Chief, you could tell me when we'll be changing some out quickly, and then Anis or Anna talk about the starting salary. But what I can tell you that we are in the middle of negotiations right now in terms of what those starting salaries are going to look like. So as soon as we could have an agreement, that's when that will change. But please, between Anna and, the CFO, Ms. Anna Penn, and then the Deputy Executive Director and maybe the police chiefs. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Chief Wilkes. On St. Thomas, we are expecting 4 new vehicles for St. Thomas, St. John within the next 90 days. And I also budgeted for a few more.
Chief Flynn, St. Croix District. The only thing we need over here will be the 2 K9 additional vehicles once we hire a K9 unit.
The starting salary, Anis, or Anna, sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Penn, the CFO. Salary.
This is Anis Hodge again. The starting salary is only $30,000, but we are trying to work with the unions to basically come to the same starting salary as the government of the Virgin Islands. because that's one of the areas that we're losing officers, one of the reasons. So we're trying to make sure that our starting salary is comparable to that of Uptown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator DeGraff. Executive Director, you in your testimony, you made mention of the port managing 2 airports and 14 public seaports in the territory. You have your marine manager there, correct? Mr. Berry, it is?
Correct.
Can he identify these marine facilities, please?
Good afternoon. I could identify the ones in St. Thomas, St. John, as those are the ones that I am directly responsible for. Starting on the west end here, we have the Crown Bay Cruise Terminal. As we move over, we have the cargo facility that's Crowley Tropical. Then we have Sandfill. The waterfront is also under our jurisdiction. The Blyden Marine Terminal.
Do me a favor, Mr. Berry.
Yes, sir.
Slow down for me, because I'm writing as you say what the facilities are. So you're in the District of St. Thomas. You're speaking specifically to those for now. Crown Bay.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Crown Bay, the cruise terminal, the Crown Bay cargo terminal, the Crowley and Tropical docks. As you move towards Frenchtown, you have the Sandfill terminal. And then over past Frenchtown, we have the Blyden Marine Terminal, which is our BVI traffic, as you know. Then the waterfront, all the way down to the legislature. In the east end, we have the Victor Marine Terminal, the ferry terminal, and the barge terminal. In St. John, we have the ferry terminal as well, and the creek, which is also under our jurisdiction, which is the new customs facility, and the dock there that was being operated as the customs facility. And then we have the pond, which is the barge terminal for St. John. Those are the marine that I am in charge of as the marine manager. For St. Croix, I have to refer that to the marine manager in St. Croix, who I don't believe is with us.
Executive Director, who is the marine manager on St. Croix?
That's Mr. Constantine. He's not on.
Okay. Can I ask for you to submit to us a listing of the 14 seaport terminals or seaports that you referred to in your testimony, please?
Senator Gittins, this is Anis Hodge. If you go on our website, www.viport.com, all of them are listed there.
Thanks. However, I'm requesting that through the director still. Thank you so much.
No problem. We'll get it to you today.
And I asked that too because specifically into St. Thomas, and this is my fault that I don't have the diagram as I changed my bags and seemed like I left the document in another bag. But in the St. Thomas district for sure, where the seaplane comes into land, there's a safety concern there because just like the airport, there's supposed to be a landing strip there designated. And oftentimes the seaplane come in there and they have to change the angle of the manner in which they land because of how these boats are in the harbor. Who is monitoring these sailboats in the harbor? And this happened up to late last week. And when we landed, I had to ask the captain, why did we land in that direction or in that angle that he landed. And I knew what the answer was going to be because when I looked out, I saw one or two of those catamarans right in what would have been the runway, and I took a picture of it from the air. But who specifically would be responsible for the enforcement of that seaport area?
I'll speak to that, Director, if that's okay.
So go ahead, Matthew.
The harbor is a general anchorage as on the navigational chart. So all those vessels are actually in compliance, anchoring pretty much where the chart stipulates. A seaplane, per the United States Coast Guard rules of the road, has to stay out of the way of any vessel on the water. So it's up to the seaplane of where they're going to land. We would have to then go to the Coast Guard and distinguish, or DPNR would have to go to the Coast Guard and distinguish in the chart where is going to be the seaplane landing area. But the rules stipulate that the seaplane has to stay out of the way of any vessel on water. So it really is it's a very gray area for the seaplane.
That's why I wanted that document, because that was a FAA document that I actually printed, that there is an established area there that the seaplanes have the right to land there. And I really don't believe, and I'll further check this again with DPNR, and we could also follow up with you, Port Authority, being in the conversation. But those boats in the harbors, especially since COVID-19, have been all over the place. And we need to ensure that the safety and security of all our passengers are of highest priority. So we'll have a further discussion on this matter. I see our Senator at Large, Senator Stephen Payne. You're recognized for your 7 minutes.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Executive Director and your team. Good morning to the listening and viewing audience. Our Executive Director Dow, bear with me for a few minutes before I get to you. I need to kind of get something off my chest. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. There have been a lot of conversations recently about a resolution that was authored by yours truly. I'm not ashamed or afraid to say it. Yes, it's true. I, Senator Stephen Payne, the at-large senator, decided to take a stand on behalf of the countless Virgin Islanders who now live in fear in their homes and communities, where gunshots ring out like it's carnival fireworks. Text message that came into my phone on Sunday saying, "My Senator Payne, my God, it's Mother's Day, and I'm here with my children, huddled on the floor of my home, hiding from a rapid gunfire here on St. Croix." Yes, it's true. I single-handedly decided to take a stand and draft a resolution for Ray Thomas, Ferdinand Marshall, Jassy Shiverton, Carlos Ingalls, Andrew Montero Bachili, and 66-year-old Elsie Ruiz, who was shot to death in her home on St. Croix. The mothers, sisters, brothers, cousins, grandmothers, grandfathers of the 110 Virgin Islanders who were brutally and violently murdered in the Virgin Islands since 2019, when Police Commissioner Trevino took the helm of the VIPD. Yes, it's true. I said at his confirmation hearing that Trevino was not the right fit for the position of Police Commissioner. Yes, it is true that I am even more confident today than I was back then, that he is definitely not the person for the job. Yes, it is true that I asked Commissioner Villanelle at his confirmation hearing in August of 2019 if he had a plan to address the violent gun crimes that have been plaguing our communities for years. And he confidently and vehemently stated, "No, I do not." Yes, it's also true that even in his editorial in the Daily News dated Thursday, May 6, 2021, 23 months into his role as commissioner, he stated, "I still do not have a plan to address the brutal gun crimes that are plaguing our communities. It's still being worked on." Can you imagine all the fuss and discussions and conversations around 5 pieces of paper? Not one discussion or comment about 16-year-old Kimani Perdomo, who was brutally murdered on Sunday in St. Croix, or the 9-year-old child who was injured in a crossfire. And it's true, yes, that the Department of Energy, Public Works, ODR, the hospitals, Department of Education, Sports, Parks and Recreation, WAPA, licensing, fire department, none of these agencies are charged with the responsibility of eradicating our communities of gun violence. The only agency charged with the responsibility of public safety and protecting the people of the Virgin Islands is the police department, which is at this time is headed by Trevor Villanelle. And finally, yes, it's true that I stand alone in my belief. No one else feels this way, that Trevor Villanelle's contract with the government should not be renewed. Commissioner Villanelle's mantra is that if you see something, then say something. Well, I am seeing that through his inactions and lack of a plan, that he's not the right person for the job, so I'm saying something. Yes, it's true that a while back, we were suddenly thrust into a planet-wide pandemic, the likes of which none of us have ever experienced. People were getting sick, people were spreading the virus, and yes, people were dying. Can you imagine where we would have been today if the Commissioner of Health did not immediately work with her team and the CDC to come up with a comprehensive plan to combat this virus? Yes, it's true there were hurdles that stood in her way. Yes, it's true that people were upset at her plan and took it to social media and talk radios and call her all types of derogatory names. Yes, it's true that some people lost their businesses, their livelihood. Yes, it's true that some people lost their lives during the implementation of her plan. However, can you imagine where we would have been today if she had not drafted, implemented, and executed her plan for the betterment of the entire territory? She drafted a plan that all stakeholders could follow and be on the same page. One person can make a difference if they have a plan. Look at what Carlton Dow is doing with the Port Authority. Look at the multitude of projects being executed under his leadership. Does he piss off some people along the way? Of course, this is Dow you're talking about. Does every person like his leadership style? Of course not. But because he has a plan and a vision for the Port Authority, things are moving in the right direction. Everyone has heard this before. If you fail to plan, then plan to fail. Excuse me. Mr. Chair constantly reminds us that proper planning prevents poor performance. And as I stated in my opening remarks, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in a moment of comfort and convenience.
Time.
But where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. I chose a position, I took a stand on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands, and I'm sticking with my position. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dow, Executive Director Dow, I think you're doing an outstanding job at the port. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Senator at-large. Back to the topic at hand. Mr. Executive Director Dow, there was a multi-million-dollar project approved by the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021. It's a project on St. Croix. You're familiar with what I'm talking about?
Not right off.
It's one that is the 30-acre lease at the Henry Rolston Airport to build a $39 million Army aviation support facility. You familiar with what I'm talking about now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can you tell us the status of that project, please?
That's something we're working with the National Guard. Currently, we have solicited and we've got contracted somebody to do the survey there. We had to survey the property so that they could have the exact boundaries that they wanted to put in this lease. So that's happening now as we speak. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, we should be getting that survey back by Friday, if we didn't get it back already.
Okay, I'm hopeful that we could get this project moving, because my understanding is that this could be like a 5-year military construction project. You know that going to translate to jobs, and it will also enable the Virgin Islands, particularly St. Croix, to be a strategic force project or force projection platform in the defense of the United States. And this project will not only provide military operation support, but will also bring new monies to the territory and our coffers, wherein these soldiers will be spending their dollars here, and once they come here and they experience our food, our culture, the beaches, etc., they may, once they return back and not on active duty or whatever, they will return on vacation with their families. So I'm hopeful that this, I'm told that it's in the tune of some $39 million. We can't afford for this type of money to go back. So I'm asking that we address this expeditiously, and I'll ask that you submit through the chair to this committee the status overall and a timeline as to when the project will begin.
Well, let me just say for the record, Senator, that's not a project being executed in terms of the work. Our only nickel in the dime is the lease of the property.
Right.
When the project is going to begin, I can't say.
Okay.
But we'll provide you a timeline.
You're absolutely correct. So I'm talking about to let us know, this committee, how soon that lease will be completed. The Port Authority police chiefs, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Good afternoon. Happy Police Week to both of you and your team. I want to ask specifically about the wearing of uniform. We're talking about safety and security at our ports, whether airport or seaports. All your officers have full uniforms?
Yes, Senator, they do.
And are they required to wear uniforms?
Yes, sir.
And
yes, Senator.
I'm asking this because I've repeatedly had to ask about the appearance of some of the officers, and particularly in the St. Croix district, where one can hardly identify a port officer because we're wearing jackets that doesn't say police. It doesn't have on the patch. or anything, and maybe you might see a firearm exposed on the side, but you can't identify these officers easily. How are we, or what's your plan to address this and ensure that anyone coming into this territory is able to identify a police officer on the airport?
Senator Chief Wilkes, you kind of lost you there for a minute. You went in and out.
That's
went
why
in
I
and out.
stated you're lost, because I stated I'm specifically seeing
No,
this
no,
in the sing. Hold on, Chief. Hold on, Chief.
With your mic.
Yeah, okay, it might be the technical stuff, but how about St. Croix? St. Croix, can you hear me, the St. Croix Chief? Because I'm speaking
Yes,
specifically.
Senator. Good afternoon. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, because I'm speaking specifically.
I can respond. Yeah, I can respond. In reference to the wearing of the jacket, we rectified that because I knew you mentioned it in the past. And the uniforms, we modified where we put the police logo on them now. So we just recently issued some new uniform shirts with police on the back and on the side, so you could clearly identify the officers. And the jackets them that we issued do have the patches, and they clearly mark police on it also.
Thank you. And this is for not only the safety of the public and that the public is able to identify a police officer, but it's also for their own safety as well, and for the agency's liability, as I see this bad practice quite too often. Thank you for that. Port Director, you spoke about Frontier providing service between Orlando and St. Thomas twice a week. What, if anything, can you tell us a bit more in detail with regards to the plans to increasing air traffic to St. Croix?
Senator, what I can say is that once we have the interaction with the airlines, one of the first up is trying to get more traffic into St. Croix. That's why even the incentive, when the incentive for folks to fly into St. Croix for the year for basically free and 50%, that same incentive wasn't even offered at the time to St. Thomas, because we saw the need to try to get more traffic to St. Croix. But at the end of the day, it's a supply and demand issue. It's where the traffic, where we can do our part by trying to sell and educate, and that's what I suspect, tourism, try to do. But the hotels issue, it's not just a one shoe fit all. It's the issues of hotel room stay. I know the Airbnb seems to be a big thing popping up. And even our own, on the airport side, we've got to, that's why we're doing the expansion room. Because while we say we want more traffic, if 3 jets right now or 4 jets at the same time in St. Croix, the passengers have nowhere to even sit. And so our expansion room, we actually provide that to the airlines so they could see the upgrades that we're making. Right. We've been selling the 10,000 feet runway that St. Croix have and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's selling these kind of packages and us educating the outer world as to why more traffic should be heading to St. Croix. But outside of that, it's normally tourism who is doing all those promotional ads and so forth.
So I understand and I concur with your response. However, one of the things that I always say is that I hope that we're not just looking at visitors to the territory where we keep saying we don't have hotel rooms. Oftentimes it is locals too, or people who are from here, people who are coming to visit family and friends here, still can't get to St. Croix. So it's not that it's everyone that's coming to the territory is trying to get into a hotel. So hopefully, and of course, that's more discussion with with tourism, which we did ask them the question, but I know I wanted to ask that specifically of the board, especially since oftentimes we always hear that there was some controversy with landing fees. So I saw and listened to your testimony regarding the airline incentives, and I'll ask you to submit a copy of the airline incentives as well that was just voted upon by the board. If you could submit that to the committee. And
Sure.
also you spoke to the CARES Act funding. You answered one of my questions as I wrote it down, but you did answer it as you went along, and you spoke about the FAA awarding the $38 million CARES Act funding. You also stated that the grant cannot be used for any purpose not approved by the FAA, which is understood. However, what I'll also ask for is a copy of that grant so that we can take a look to see what is approved and what's not approved, especially as we're going into the budget season at this time.
No problem.
The committee will take a 10-minute recess and resume. I'm asked to just take a 10-minute recess, and we shouldn't be here much longer as we go into the second round, and then we'll conclude there. So, Director and your team will break for 10 minutes. The Committee on Economic Development and Agriculture for Monday, May 10th is back on record. We'll do a 5-minute second round and wrap up. But before I move to the next senator, Executive Director Dow, I wanted to ask about some recent footage that we've seen, and it's not the first time we've seen it either, with the exceedingly long lines to go through customs, especially on St. Thomas. I know on St. Croix, I've seen it a couple of times. However, what happened there was customs was not open yet. But what is the reason for those long lines that we've seen at the St. Thomas Airport?
You hearing me, Senator? Good afternoon.
I am hearing you now.
Okay, fine. I think the question was the long lines?
Yes, so we've been seeing some footage of some real long lines. I've seen it on St. Croix, but of course it's not as long as what we've seen on St. Thomas, where it actually wrap around the airport, the whole outside there. But what is the reason for that? And how is that being addressed?
Well, it ain't gonna be addressed until the facility could be upgraded, as long as we have the amount of traffic that we're seeing. Only because the airlines, we just had recent conversation with them and trying to move like 45 minutes in terms of the scheduling. But most of the airlines want to do this return, and if they have to go like out to the Midwest or what have you, there's a certain window in which they want to come and be able to turn around and go back stateside. And so as much as we have tried it in terms of asking them to move, all of them want the same window. And that's why part of the incentive, in particular in St. Thomas, you see, where we tell them if you come after 5 o'clock, you could have a discounted rate. Even with that, they still don't want to come after 5, except for the 1 or 2 that sleeps overnight. So I don't see us, until we could improve the infrastructure at the airport, being able to use the second floor in St. Thomas and break up that traffic sum, we're not going to be able to, because we're still operating in a footprint that was designed for 300,000 people, and we have seen as much as close to 900,000 people move to the same facility. So that's a challenge in of itself, but I still must tell you that it's not a challenge that that is bad, because the volume is good for the territory right now.
So this has nothing to do with the time that customs open up, because I mean that was what was said, that people were actually waiting for customs to open.
Correct. That's only the morning, the first flight leaving out in the morning. But there again, and I even referencing that, and we have to tell people all the time, the Virgin Islands Port Authority, neither does the Virgin Islands government control the hours of what CBP work. We can only sometimes request, and I tell you the honest truth is that even the folks that's working on ground here for CBP, these decisions oftentimes are made between sometimes Puerto Rico or Washington, and not here.
We understand that. So the question would be, are we talking with anyone within the federal government to see if we can address this, even if we have to utilize the contacts of our Congresswoman?
We have done that over and repeatedly, trying to get those things, but they'll talk to you about their mandate and their, So we have done it before.
Okay, so something that we will need to address again, and I'll see what angle that I could assist in this area as well. And you stated that this is just on the morning flights, correct?
No. What I'm saying is what time the actual open, CBP
right.
opens up for operation. That's the morning flight. That's the challenge.
So let me.
But on any given day,
Let me try to be a little clearer. Sorry. What time does CBP operations open in both districts, to your knowledge, if you know?
Chief Wilson and Chief Flynn could help me.
7 a.m. depending on the flight departure time.
It
St.
depends on
Thomas, they're here from 6 o'clock. I said.
I'm sorry. Let me let's go back to St. Croix. You said depending on the flight departure time. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if they have a standard time to open. Period.
I think seasonal, like what the director mentioned, they have the unions that will get involved, and so sometime when we meet with them, and depending on the departure of the jet.
Okay. I tell you what. I'll make an inquiry on my own. I think we're trying to guess the answers, and I really don't want a guess answer. So.
Well, I think right up is like 6 in St. Thomas, I believe 7 o'clock in the morning, but it all will vary, especially in St. Croix, because it's not every day St. Croix have an early flight, so they make the adjustment based on that.
Okay, so I'll make an inquiry from here. Thank you for your responses. Senator Javon E. James, Sr., you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
1, 2. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, once again for the time. To Director Dow, I recently traveled to the U.S. mainland in the month of March of this year, and I saw something that we definitely need to practice in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And as we speak about gun control and police presence, I realized when I was in the line for Spirit Airlines, an individual declared a firearm at the front gate or at the front desk. And once the individual working behind the desk declared a firearm, they had someone escort them from the desk to a specific spot by TSA. And then from there, TSA took it over and put it on the plane. Whereas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, you declare your firearm, and you can still be able to walk up and down the airport with it, all the way to customs. You can get in an argument sometime in between from going there to checking into your flight. And then when you finally reach the customs, once you declare it, then they take it. Is there any way that we can fix that, address that, have some conversations with the airlines and change the policies and the way how they conduct the declaration of firearms in the territory?
Well, again, I'd have to look into that. I'm not aware of that process that you just described. I know normally when a person go to the counter and declare they have a firearm, I think at that point is when they secure it and take it from them. But I don't know. I'd have to look into that, Senator.
That is incorrect. I don't want to say too much on the Senate floor, but when I get a chance, I will let you know of some personal experiences and things that I've seen and witnessed for myself. I don't want to get the loopholes out there. We have to tighten it up. But I just want to make sure that we change the way how we do things when it comes to the declaration of firearms in the territory. And I know VIPD has a checkpoint at the airport on St. Thomas. I'm not sure of St. Croix because I never really saw a checkpoint there. But is there some kind of collaboration between VIPD and the Port Authority law enforcement officers when VIPD is not present there?
Yes, Chief Flynn, St. Croix. VIPD office is by baggage claim on the east side for the declaration. We, like I said, we recently assist them in installing some signs. We still have some more to put up. And yes, we communicate. Once VIPD is not there, we continue to assist them. We will be the one receiving the firearms and doing the procedure.
Would you say that Sierra Leone King Airport is a 24-hour airport?
Well, yeah, it is a 24-hour airport.
The reason why I'm saying that, I don't want to put too much information out there, but I just want to make sure that our checkpoint is manned in the absence of VIPD, I know you guys go to the same police academy, so in the absence of VIPD not being there, when we have communications between the airlines and individuals who declare firearms and coming into the territory, that someone can be there, be present there, and be able to hold those individuals accountable and make sure that they follow the law, which is the Virgin Islands Code. I've recently had a conversation with Commissioner Villanor, and these things that I'm telling you is not he say or she say. These are things that I've witnessed with my own two eyes, and I just want to make sure that we control the influx of guns, whether they're legal or illegal when they're coming into our ports, because it seems like there is some miscommunication between the U.S. mainland.
1 minute.
Once individuals declare the firearm and individuals come in here. I know that we're counting on citizens to do the right thing and call VIPD before they get into the territory, but let's be honest, if individuals can circumvent the process, they will. So we need to have a better conversation with the airlines that once individuals declare a firearm and coming into the territory, just like how we have the VI portal, the US VI portal, because when I was in Orlando, Florida recently in March, I could not have gone on that plane if I wasn't declared or had the green light from the US VI portal. So I'm saying the same thing with the declaration of firearms. That communication needs to be had, and making sure that when individuals touch down here with their guns, we hold them accountable, and that VIPD checkpoint is not empty. Because if individuals, once again, can circumvent the process, they will. And we know recently, and in the many years we saw individuals who are able to traffic illegal things to the airport, so individuals could get away with more than they will. So let's just tighten up on that. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying let's just have better communications with the airlines and VIPD and making sure that our ports are safe.
Time.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say this one last thing, if I may.
You may.
You're not tooting your horn enough, Mr. Dow. You have the career portal that was recently launched on May 3rd, 2021. That is a big deal. It speaks to improving the process when it comes to individuals who want to get hired at the Port Authority. So I just want to remind you to toot your hand. I know you're not running for what you call an elected position. You're appointed. But individuals need to know what you're doing, because you're doing a very great job, Mr. Dow. And I would just end by saying I hope at some point we can have a conversation with U.S. Congress, since we are a territory and we're small, that we can be able to adjust our passenger facilities charges that is tied into our other airports on the U.S. mainland. Their ratio when it comes to the population is in the millions, whereas we're only 100,000 people, and we don't generate as much when it comes to those airports on the U.S. mainland. So hopefully we can get an exemption, and we can lobby as a government to change the passenger facility charges. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, I thought you wanted to respond. Okay. Thank you, Senator James. Before we move to the Senate President, Executive Director Dow, you always stated that we have to do what we have to do to make sure that we are in position to do certain things and expand on our tourism product. Now, with regards to the, we had an opportunity some years ago to have that Marriott, I believe, here, and it went to another Caribbean island. But for the future, and especially the one that you spoke about with the possibilities of having the hotel built there near the airport, where are we exactly on that? And are we doing everything humanly possible to make that come to reality?
What I can tell you is our legal folks and the other individuals are talking. That's where I know we are in terms of actually executing on a lease. But I don't know anything that the port can do or should be doing. And folks, we have an open process. If folks think that there's something we could be doing in the meantime, and I could just tell you the difference is, for example, in that situation in St. Croix, the fee that they pay us on a monthly basis is very small compared to what one would have paid in St. Thomas. So right there and all, the board of directors took into consideration how we could try to lessen the impact so folks wouldn't say that the fee is running them or anything like that. I don't know what else the port can do, but if there's any issues, they need to come forward and tell us what those issues might be. I don't know.
Approximately how much acres does a port have for large projects such as that one, or any other?
In that area, we have about 400 acres in that specific vicinity right across the road from the airport. Then we have another, I think, across the over by Yellow Cedar area. We do have about another 30 some odd acres, and so we have probably in the airport proper probably 70 some odd acres across the street, over 400 plus acres.
And the 400 plus acres you're talking about on the water side?
Yeah. Yes, Betty's Hope area.
Okay. Thank you. Madam President, you recognize for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that you've been challenged with the marine side of the Port Authority for the past year and a half, literally. Are you up to date on your bond commitments and payments?
Yes.
Great. Good news. That's called good management. Mr. Chair, I'm echoing.
I'm not sure why.
Because they have the 2 mics on in both districts. One needs to be turned off. All right. Let's talk about the expansion of the Concrane property, or the use of the expansion of the Concrane property for the expansion, rather, of the transshipment business. Mr. Dow, could you please share with us what the vision is on that? I know that I have the legislation to allow the Virgin Islands Port Authority to either transfer or lease that property from the government for the purposes of expansion of the transshipment business here in the St. Thomas, St. John district. But I would like for you to share with the committee and the listening and viewing audience, what's the vision around that?
Thanks, Senator, and the movement of the legislation. But what we have now, we're bursting at the seams. We have no place really to put containers, and a big part of the territory's business is that of transshipping commodities to the Eastern Caribbean. When the cruise ships start up again, we see the problem square in our face, only because a bulk of the containers that comes into the territory is then laid aside and then sent to other islands in the Caribbean for the cruise ship, for the cruise ship industry. But more than that, your BVI traffic and everything else we kind of stymied, and how quickly commodities, goods and services could be moved from supermarkets to the store shelves. All of that impact on the inability for us to have good lay-down areas and so forth. So that's desperately needed. Containers are stacked sometimes 4, 5 height, which is not the safest way. But because they don't have any other means, that's what. And everything we consume in this territory, look at what you're eating, what you're wearing, comes into our ports. And therefore, the need for expansion is great. Not just the transshipment, but even the commodities that are used in this territory. And we could look at how it impacts the cost of the commodity. Because when you have to, when you can't store the item properly, or you have a short window of storage put on and then get to the shelf, all of that impacts the cost that residents would pay in the territory. So it's very, very necessary that we expand to that Concrane property, and in as much as it's clear, FEMA indicated that that cannot no longer be used for a school.
And is there an appetite for other businesses, other port-type businesses, shipping businesses, to also come here to provide similar services?
Definitely, because there are a couple more shipping entities. We know of the big two or three around here, but there are other people who have that interest in trying to come on to the property and expanding. All of that would impact what prices we pay for goods and commodities, supply and demand, and competition at the same time.
See them coming here once we are able to move that legislation forward.
Definitely.
Okay, great. I have one last question, and this is tied to economic development, the EDA actually, and the relationship between yourself. I think I had a brief conversation with you about this a couple of weeks ago regarding the private jets that are coming into the territory. I know that just recently we had a ribbon cutting of the largest hangar in the Eastern Caribbean, right here in the St. Thomas St. John district. But what is important to me is that we don't lose those individuals coming here on those jets, and we are in fact engaging with them to have discussions around our EDC programs. And I did have a brief conversation with the Tourism Commissioner, yourself, all separately, but I want to know, as well as the EDA the director, CEO, I want to know if there is any discussion in earnest around how do we provide information once those private jets, the individuals on those private jets land here, information to them as it relates to our EDC program and how we could have meetings with them so they can explore, they can possibly establish home offices here, etc. Is there any discussion in earnest to make sure that that is going to occur at the jet centers here in the territory, in St. Thomas, St. John in particular, and in the territory eventually when the other one is built out?
I'm glad that you asked that, Senator. You encourage a provoking thought in terms of that whole concept. And as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, it is something that between EDA and tourism, whether we set up the kind of communication and packages that these folks come in, because what this territory see, and I can tell you that most recently some of the wealthiest folks in the world, not in the US, but in the world, has continued to traverse through these areas, and we must take advantage of it. I think it's a good thing that you started in terms of the dialogue, and the port will be more than glad to participate with those folks. One of the challenges now that's happening is, and I hate it, is that these jets are landing on the private side. They're coming in, and because even in St. Thomas now, we don't have the requisite accommodations in terms of hotel rooms, that they're dropping off folks now and going back down to Puerto Rico and waiting until the guests are ready to come back up. So that's revenue that generally the territory is using. So it's a holistic thing that we really need to look at as a territory, but more direct the discussion you have started with ourselves and tourism and hopefully EDA. That's an area that we definitely need to really press harder on in terms of the kind of folks that comes into this territory from a business standpoint.
Well, thank you for your responses, and I think it's so important that we ensure that they not only come to visit, but they find interest in setting up back office businesses, etc. here in the Virgin Islands. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for the time, and thank you to Mr. Dow and his team for your responses.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator Potter, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I know that E.D. Dow, the marine side of the Port Authority, has really historically been the cash cow for the organization. And you have undoubtedly taken a very heavy hit as a result of COVID-19 and the loss of the cruise ship traffic in the territory, and you did allude to that in your presentation. I know that the CDC guidelines, they apparently have been, I guess, easing some of the restrictions somewhat. And you mentioned that the projection seems to be, or the general consensus seems to be July 2020, but there was still a level of uncertainty as that date, seems to be a moving target. But I know you and your team have been in conversation with the cruise lines, and I wanted to know just give us some insights as to how those conversations have been going, and just your best guesstimate as to when you expect to see cruise ship traffic here in the territory again, and what are some of the restrictions and changes that we might envision when the cruise traffic resumes in the territory again?
My best estimate would be probably sometime in July, maybe some test cruises. Yes, the staff and I have been in communications with them. And I can tell you that in a meeting I was with the governor and the cruise ship executive, I think he made it clear. And at least I could tell you about Royal Caribbean, because that's the folks that contract with the port. And that's the folks that took the most people to St. Croix. And they are telling us upon their return, we expect to see more traffic in St. Croix from Royal Caribbean. So that's a good thing. There's been discussion about this bubble concept. We don't know how that's going to play out in the other jurisdiction. That's happening, meaning that there would be in the initial rollout, there can only, there's certain locations that they'll be confined to visit or to go. But I don't know what would happen. I know the governor made it clear he's not interested in a budget concept, but I don't know. We're thinking that hopefully by July we could see some movement. But a part of the traffic that we also miss on the marine side is that of the BVI. Hopefully in May, I know they start with some limited movement because of the 700,000 to 800,000 people that land in King Airport. At least 250 to 300,000 go on to the British Virgin Islands, which is very helpful to us because every time they move through our airports, that's revenue that the port gets as well. So it's not, the cruise ship is a big piece, but there's also a good chunk that comes from the BVI traffic as well.
Thank you very much, E.D. Dow. Regarding Frontier Airlines, and I know it's been timely having them, commit to landing here in the territory on a regular basis. What's the terms of that agreement? I mean, as far as timelines, are they committed to be here a year and a half, 2 years?
No, they have a list right now, I believe. I think it's about for a year. But remember, what's going to determine that? They didn't give us any indication that they wouldn't be here, regardless of how they do it. But remember, what's going to drive that? Because they started with a direct flight from Orlando to St. Thomas. Shortly thereafter, they made an announcement that they're going to do Miami, St. Thomas. As a matter of fact, more recently, they said that they want to start a flight now from Puerto Rico to St. Thomas. So the reason I'm saying is because the volume, the passengers is what's going to motivate them and drive them as to what they're going to do. Once they know that they can make money on a route, that route will continue for some time, even if it becomes seasonal for some reason. But we believe they'll be around.
The demand will definitely dictate their presence here, their continued presence here. I understand. My final question, Executive Director Dow, is as the Executive Director of a significant operation here in the territory, a major economic driver for this territory, what keeps you up at night?
Besides the trip, I'm glad you asked that question. I'll say from COVID, things change. What kept me up and my management team is making sure, and I want to be deliberate about what I'm saying here, making sure that the 365 employees that the Port Authority have, that each of them maintain a job and got a paycheck to take care of family. And that's what kept us up for the last year. While some people, and even sometimes you're discussing with unions, some people don't recognize that. I have to be frank. It has not been easy, but we've made a decision along with our governing body. While other people, follows, downsize and so forth, we had to think on those people who had a mortgage to pay, have children in college, and these kind of things. For over the last year, I've had to say sometimes even to employees, the easiest thing would have been for us to decide how many people probably need to be cut. But we couldn't do that. We didn't do that. And I think that we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, making a lot of sacrifices along the way, making decisions sometimes that some folks didn't like. And I want to wrap up by telling you that, and we do appreciate those unions who recognize what we were doing, and we held back on uniform allowances. We held back on some of the things that union had already agreed to receive. And I'm glad that we're in a place now that we were able to go back now and tell them, hey, we appreciate what you have done in terms of, working with us through this difficult period. So now we can go forward, give you a uniform allowance or whatever, whatever we had. But that's what kept me up for a long, long time. The other stuff,
Okay, thank you very much, Executive Director Dow. You're frozen in time, but I agree with you with a 45% drop in revenues and to be able to maintain 100% employment, I think it speaks volume to commitment and to management. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Executive Director Dow and your team for all that you do.
Thank you, Senator Pata. Senator DeGraff, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair. That last question of my colleague, that's a segue into what I always say, personal first. And Director, to hear that you didn't lay off anyone and you're talking to the unions and you're able to work things out, that's what I want to hear, because to me, that's what makes a difference. Director, let me see, you mentioned $5.7 million for utilities. How much of the infrastructure build out that you're doing in capital projects have you taken alternative energy into consideration?
One of the projects that we got back online that we're receiving some grants from now, some benefit from, is the solar project at the King Airport. We are in discussion with WAPA. We would hope that that could happen real soon, that we could do a major solar farm right outside of the Hira Airport. There's another discussion, and these are real, that we've been having with WAPA. We have the parking lot up in St. John, right close to the substation. So we hope that the port would benefit as well from those large operations that we discussing. But our buildings themselves, any new construction coming, we expect to try to incorporate some level of solar energy with it.
Okay, that's great news to hear. Now, also for your ports, Bays Monsanto Port and Abramson and Molasses Dock, are you providing any shore power where the vessels would come in and come out for their engines and then plug into shore power, again, a revenue generator for Port Authority? Any word on that?
No, nothing that I know. I know that Matthew and the folks, and we've been talking with Public Works, that when the second phase of this waterfront project comes in, what we're doing now is brand new fendering going in there. The administration is pledged another set of money for that, for the fendering, but we need to do in any expansion that we have the water and shore power available there. That's a big thing that where we could generate some revenues from.
Okay, great. Now, for vessels that dock along the waterfront, I see the $1 million yachts and stuff. Where do they dispose of their waste? How is that being done with the boats, I guess, in the harbor, or the boats that tie up to the dock?
Matthew, go quickly. Sorry,
all the vessels have holding tanks, and they would pump out as regulated by the law. Or if there is a situation, they could pump to a truck. We don't have any operating vessels in St. Thomas that could pump out right now. Yacht Haven Grand has a pump out station, but I believe it's down. So they'll go offshore 12 miles and pump out.
Oh, okay. So does that apply to the vessels docked in the harbor, or do they come under DPNR?
All vessels that have a holding tank, they have to go offshore and pump out if there's no other available means to pump out their holding tanks, and that applies for all vessels in the harbor, any yachts, anything in that nature.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Do any of your docks provide fresh water and trash facilities where they can dispose of? They can fill up fresh water or dispose of their trash when they pull up?
Yes, our cruise ship has a water facility where we meter it and we sell water to the tugboats that are local here, and then any vessels that need water, and then any vessels that require trash, they'll have to contact a local trash vendor, as that's regulated waste. So it's not just normal household trash. They have to follow certain rules, and the trash has to be kind of segregated away from any local facilities. It's vessel trash is different from any kind of onshore trash, so it has to be handled in that way. But that's a very common request from any vessels.
Okay, great. That's great news. Now, Director, I've heard you spoken about several grants. Are you default on any grants presently, or do you ask for any extensions for any of the grants?
I remember the project that we did at the Molasses Pier, we did ask for an extension, which was granted. We might ask for an extension there, but we have not, to my knowledge, since I've been here, defaulted on any grant, or have we been found to mismanage any grant. And that's one of the reasons we continue to get quite a bit of federal funding. And that's just testimony to the people that manages these things, starting with the Deputy Assistant Director, Anis Hodge, and Ms. Anna Penn, the CFO, her staff that works in accounting. And it's not always easy, smooth. It's not always smooth sailing, but we manage to be responsible stewards of all these grants we have.
I love to hear about great personnel, man. And final question, if I may, Mr. Chair.
You may.
Yes, and in regards to the sub-base properties, there were donkey air mechanic shops and body shops in the sub-base area. I was told they were being evicted from the area. What is the plan for that sub-base area there where those businesses are being moved?
Well, we did an entire master plan of the area. The fact is those places are not even habitable, to be honest with you. It poses a hazard. We have insurance issues and the likes. And that place, if you go down there, it hadn't been kept best. But all in all, we have an entire development project that the board had authorized us to do a study on. And I think we're moving forward a plan. Part of that is under discussion as we speak. We've been communicating with the folks, and we're hoping that we could have a soft landing with mechanics. I don't know, but we'll see how that plays out. But then we did tell them that they have to vacate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Director. Again, to you and your team, continue doing what you're doing. And I stand in full support of Port Authority. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator DeGraff. Senator Payne, you're recognized for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the time, good afternoon to Director Dow and your team. Director Dow, you made a reference in your testimony to a home-run electrical system. I'm pretty familiar with most electrical systems, but can you explain what is a home-run electrical system?
Okay. Well, all that means is like if let's say you're wiring a house, instead of the wire going to 2 or 3 or 4 different avenues to connect and interconnect, that it goes directly from the source of the power straight to where you want to get it. And they call that, in their terms, a home run. Just means that the power that you're supplying is not going to 3 or 4 different places before it gets to where it needs to be. That's the lay. Okay. That's my lay description of a home run.
Okay, 10-4 on that. And also, are you in the process of building a secure office where individuals traveling with firearms into the territory can be processed on St. Thomas and on St. Croix?
Well, what the law had required the Port Authority to do, and the Attorney General is one of our board members, is that the law says that the port shall provide a space for these folks. We have done that.
Okay, could you have one of your chiefs explain the process when someone boards a plane from the mainland traveling to the Virgin Islands? What's the process for declaring a firearm and having it processed?
Chief Lynn, St. Croix District. The process that I know of is you declare it, they put the note in the bag. So when TSA see it, they will show that it was properly declared. I guess when they arrive here, if they don't contact us or bring it to our attention, we won't know. The airline won't share that information with us.
Okay, but what happened in the instance if they make contact with you guys? What happens in that instance? They actually make contact with the Port Authority.
Okay, so if they make advanced communication, they probably communicate with VIPD. Then VIPD, if they're not here to receive the weapon, then we'll be the one receiving it. When we receive the weapon, we give them a report number if we receive it, and give them the information that they'll be continuing the case with VIPD in reference to carrying it or how it will be stored and so forth.
Okay, and you said that this has to be done prior?
If they don't communicate with VIPD prior to arriving, we have the signs that helps, and or they approach us because we the one that receive them by the gates, and they go bring it to our attention, and we deal with it. If they don't, if we don't know in advance, when they come to us directly, we go ahead with the procedure. We go ahead and contact VIPD, let them know we received the weapon, and get a case number for them and give it to the passenger.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. Executive Director Dow, has there been any talks relative to purchasing a possible jet breeze for St. Thomas and St. Croix that could be utilized in helping with deplaning at the airports?
Yes, that's part of the third phase of our airport expansion project. I spoke earlier that we're talking about millions of dollars. We are now talking to everybody who would listen. I talk about, we have some consultants in DC that's working on it. It's an expensive proposition. Yes, there are talks as we speak today.
90 seconds.
Okay, both
yes, okay, thank you very much. That's very good to hear. I recently reached out to your Chief of Staff, Ms. Judy Solar, to ascertain the possibility of building a fisherman's market for the fishermen in St. John. And I want to publicly thank you for your speedy response. That shows your solid commitment to the local fishermen. The bill has been drafted and should be sent to your office before the week is over. And on behalf of the fishermen in St. John, I want to say a hearty lobster and conch thank you, as they will have a brand new facility where they can sell their first catch of the day. Continue your good works for the people of the territory, Executive Director Dow and your team. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Senator.
At-large Senator. Executive Director Dow, we've been talking about safety and security at the ports. We've been talking about customs. We're talking about the importations of firearms, etc. Through all the renovations that's happening at both airport facilities, are we looking into possibly having our own X-ray scanning machines that even our local officers can scan bags, whether it's port officers or VIPD officers assigned to the airport?
That's, to be honest with you, Senator, that's more a kind of technical issue that you venture in after, because it comes down to the authorization and legal authority for these things to be scanned, and what legal authority we have to scan these things. The charge of X-ray scanning equipment or what have you on the airport proper, it's a federal obligation. It's not the Port Authority proper in terms of scanning equipment. We normally do joint type operation, and just recently, it was the Third Circuit reversing an earlier ruling that's saying that even CBP couldn't scan certain, when planes come in, couldn't scan certain luggage and so forth in the rear of the facility. So it's just a reversal within the last few months, maybe, of the Third Circuit ruling. So the Port Authority does not have, to me, as far as I know, the legal authority to go in the back and when stuff coming out of a plane to screen it or sort it.
So can we research this and be certain? Because I was about to ask you about the coexistence of the local and federal authorities. You just spoke to the joint operations. And I'm saying if we are responsible for the ports and the safety and security of all going through these ports, then, I mean, I really don't see it, but I understand your concern. What I'm asking is, can we look further into this and see how we could assist from our local end? Because evidently there's much more to be done and much more that could be done to continue to safeguard our territory.
Certainly we could always, look and see how we could better provide, security and safety issues for the public at large. Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. Do we still have the assistance of the VA National Guard at the airports conducting COVID screening or tests?
The Deputy Director could speak to that, Ms. Hodge.
Good afternoon, Anis Hodge. Yes, we do, Senator.
Okay, thank you. And how is the lighting now in the St. Croix district? I know the night flight, because of the renovations that's taken place, it was really dark on the outside with passengers coming in. You couldn't even see the National Guard employees there. I've been told of some frightening things there. What's the lighting like now coming in there? Have we addressed that?
Coming into St. Croix?
Yes. You know, when you come off the plane, you're standing in that line now to come in to be cleared right. By them. It's dark on the outside.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know. I have not received some complaint that there's an issue. I'll look into it today.
Wow. Okay.
And it's not the worst case would be that we might be able to set up some mobile lamps.
Okay, well I'm hopeful that this could be addressed, and I'm even sorry that I took so long to ask about this, because this is like months now. I remember picking up some family members, and what was described to me, I couldn't believe that was happening. But the basic thing was it was like pitch dark on the outside. And lastly, we spoke about the Gallows Bay project. Are the engineers also in talks with public works engineers with regards to the runoff with the water in that area? Because you see how it gets once there's a heavy rain and all that dirt come off the hillside down into Gallows Bay?
What public work indicated to us that they're working on, according to them, and again, that's from years of back and forth. They told us that they are now working on a comprehensive design to do that entire roadway. They talk about, just like you described, the amount of water that comes off the hill and where they're going to channel it. But There is nothing, to be honest with you, I don't know, for our engineers to do it. That's a complete project of public work from outside.
Okay, and we know that there's been some chatter, and we're going to have a discussion with WICO as well, but from the port standpoint, especially with regards to the cruise industry, we see what's happening in Florida and the problems that they're having. So some of the cruise lines are actually going to be departing out of, I believe it's the Dominican Republic and Jamaica. Where are we, if any, in any of these talks, if ships are going to be returning to the territory?
Well, as far as I know, I just last week, I think the staff, myself, we met face-to-face with Royal Caribbean representative. They flew down, and we expect that they'll return. And this would be the port here in the territory. They expect to carry more traffic, St. Croix 1, and that's what the conversation centered around. And more so that this is one of the priority destinations. One of the priority destinations that they, once they start roll out, and they were discussing first just going to those ports that they could hit within 3 days. But I think the CDC had some discussion with them, and the CDC have kind of tell them that they probably need to do whether it's a week tour, whatever they're going to do. The rollout need to be the actual way in which they're going to operate. So we expect that once they start to sail, we expect that we'll be right there among the destinations.
Okay, and does that include any stops on St. Croix and Abramson Pier?
I could only tell you what our direct discussions, and we have the list of priority items, and one of the priority items, as soon as they start to sail again, is increasing traffic to St. Croix. But just for the public's edification and the senators, part of what the Port Authority and its staff and its governing body had been able to do and is leverage some of what we're discussing in St. Thomas right now to assist with the increased traffic to St. Croix.
Can you repeat that one more time for me, please?
What I'm saying, in the discussion we've been having with Royal Caribbean in particular, because that's who we contract with.
Right.
We have been able, along with the administration, in discussions we've had with them, even face-to-face, is leverage the strength of St. Thomas to see that more traffic goes to St. Croix. And I'm talking about from the port side now. And they have agreed that they will, in fact, take some more traffic than they were taking in the past to St. Croix.
Great. So do we have a contingency plan in place if these cruise ships do come back to the territory?
And that's the deputy director, that's her sole responsibility. So Anis, could you speak to that, please?
Sure. Anis Hard, Deputy Executive Director. Senator Gittins, we have been working for several months in conjunction with the Department of Health, the Department of Tourism, and WICO to develop a marine protocol for the territory. So we have basically completed that with the input of all those entities and as well as Government House. We are now on to the stage where Royal Caribbean is asking us to meet with them to go over those marine protocols as well as CDC guidelines that have been recently imposed and updated. So we're in talks to ensure that when they do return, that they meet the protocols that we as the Virgin Islands have developed, as well as the CDC guidelines and protocols that are in place.
Excellent. So that's the one, if they were to return. Do we have, or are we putting in place a contingency plan if they were not to return?
We haven't really discussed them not returning because the impetus has been in place and making sure that we do everything that we need to do in order for them to return. But I would like to answer it in this way, in that the CDC is requiring certain requirements or agreements that they must have with us as a port destination. Those requirements would be an agreement for medical, provision of medical services, vaccination services, as well as housing. So we are making every effort to work with the administration to make sure that those agreements are in place in order for them to return. And they are in favor of, I said, meeting with us to make sure that those items are in place. If those are in place for the summer, they would be including us on the simulated voyages that they're trying to put together right now to meet CDC requirements. And if we are on those simulated voyages itinerary, they will definitely be returning to the Virgin Islands because that's one of the requirements.
Thank you. And I don't mean to put you all on the spot with that question if they were not to return, but I need to make sure that we're thinking about that possibility as well, and that we know what route we would want to take, because there's no guarantee, as we've seen with this global pandemic. At this time, I'll allow for, I want to thank you all for your testimony and responses today. We still have some discussions to do on the marine side. I'll be in touch with you, Executive Director Dow, and your team, and I'll allow for you to give a closeout at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the administration. I'd like to thank the legislature and you, Mr. Chairman, for all the collaboration with the Port Authority and the help. We couldn't do all these things alone, so I really want to thank each and every one of you in that body, in the legislature, for the assistance that we continue to receive. I also want to recognize and thank all the employees that work with the Port Authority, work with us, and trying to make this job happen. I tell them the Port Authority is not Carlton Dow, but it's the 365 people that makes up that the institution. And I want to also, I'm glad that Matthew, this is the Marine manager. This is a young man who went to school here locally, went to the Marine Institute, graduated, and was moving cargo and vessels, the biggest of the vessels all over the Pacific. He's now our Marine manager. We have a bunch. We have a few youngsters that we brought in our engineering department, and we continue to applaud them and thank them for becoming members. But we have to continue that building process where when Dow leave, Ms. Hodge leave, Ms. Penn, that there is that next group of people who any day can run and step into these jobs. One of the best kept secrets, and I'll end here, is that all these projects we talk about, 5% of whatever these projects are comes back or goes back to the government of the Virgin Islands. So the Port Authority is a good bet to assist with capital projects, because I think last year we paid from the Port Authority directly on the projects over $4 million to IRB. And so I just say that as part of people understanding the impact on our capital projects and our infrastructure improvement that we have, that the central government do benefit. Again, I thank you guys for your time. I thank the members of the body, and most of all, I thank the governing board who give me the guidance every day to do this job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. I want to say before I ask the clerk to read our reminders, I want to really and sincerely say Happy Police Week again to all our law enforcement officers in the territory. And I want to ask the public to please extend a simple thank you for your service to these officers, especially during these trying times. I know it's really trying for law enforcement at this time, as we've seen the recent shootings and whatnot on the mainland, thank God we have not experienced anything like that here. We are a small-knit community. Most of the officers we know personally, went to school with, maybe a relative or somehow connected, and I'm saying just let's extend that thank you for your service to these law enforcement officers. And at the same time, I want to say, Chief Flynn, I know I've been complaining about the proper wearing of that uniform, but just know it's about tough love and it's about the safety and security of all involved. So I want those officers to not look at it as a complaint, but look at it from a standpoint that it's also for their own well-being. Madam Clerk, I'll ask that you let the Port Authority team be reminded of what we asked for during the hearing today.
Senator Gittens asks Director Dow to provide a listing of all airline incentives that have been approved by the Virgin Islands Port Authority Governing Board. Director Dow has been asked to provide a copy of the $38 million CARES Act grant that VIPA was awarded through the Federal Aviation Administration, specifically the approved spending guidelines. Port Authority was asked to provide a list of the 14 public seaport properties managed by the Virgin Islands Port Authority, broken down by district. And finally, the committee has requested the status of the lease agreement for the 30 acres of land at the Henry Rolston Airport to be used for the purpose of building an Army aviation facility. That's the end of it. Yeah.
Thank you. And again, Executive Director will just send you a short email of those reminders as well.
Okay, three of them you'll get today, and the other one probably before the week out. So you'll get three of them today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank the team again for all that you do with the port. And again, this is our gateway to the territory, and we appreciate all that you do and continue to do. This concludes the Economic Development and Agriculture hearing for Monday, May 10th, 2021. Hearing adjourned.